Our story begins inside the Chaotian Group building, where a salesman named Lin causes a scene by resigning. His manager, an arrogant person, packs his belongings and throws him out. Bank account. He doesn't know if he's dreaming or if he has actually encountered a system that isn't working correctly. His new car is parked in the area reserved for bosses, and suddenly he sees Miss G, the president of the group. The jerks from the farewell dinner had been fired. He immediately inquired about it with the company president. President G admitted that she had fired those bastards for ghostwriting, but he didn't quite understand what it entailed. He called the client to confirm if they truly wanted him to write an essay on their behalf, cautioning them about the career implications and the potential impact on her graduation grade if anything went wrong. She clarified that she only needed him to transcribe the essay onto the computer within a limited time, and asked him to come as soon as possible. Lin accepted and headed to his car. The scene then shifted to Hangai Institute of Technology, where Nin was waiting with a bouquet of flowers in order to confess his feelings to JN. He finally expressed his love and offered her the passenger seat in his car. Just as she was about to accept his proposal, Lin arrived. He quickly got into his car and asked her for directions to the main teaching building. She showed him the way, and Lin left after thanking her. Nin seized the opportunity to ask her to be his girlfriend, but she rudely rejected him, criticizing his car for not being a sports car, which was the type of vehicle she desired. Inside classroom number 108, Y was exhausted from writing and declared that he wouldn't do it anymore. Wen explained that her budget only covered one physical copy of the essay and asked him to wait for the delivery person who was on their way. Lin knocked on the door. He introduced himself as the delivery person and entered the room. Wen asked Lin to clear his desk and invited him to sit down. Then, she showed him the assignment, which needed to be completed in 4 hours, assuring him an extra bonus so he wouldn't worry. Lin discovered that the work was riddled with errors and worried that it wouldn't meet graduation standards if submitted as it was. Wen admitted that a classmate had sold it to her. Lin pointed out the flaws in the argument and explained that such errors would invalidate the entire analysis. Concerned, Wen asked for as revenge in his name. She also wanted him to take over as the new head of sales, but he refused and recommended Hang Jing for the position instead. Furthermore, the president's car was still solution. Lin suggested changing the approach and using Maxwell's demon to explore the second possibility within the second law of thermodynamics. Then he asked her if she had been paying attention in class, and she confessed that she was a low-achieving student who listened without fully understanding. Lin became frustrated hearing that. Wen was surprised that, despite being a simple delivery boy, Lin possessed such a deep knowledge of thermodynamics. Wen asked him to explain it slowly, but Lin replied that even if he explained it hundreds of times, she probably still wouldn't understand it. Then, he began writing it for her, and Wen was satisfied. After 2 hours, Lin finished the work and assured her that there was no problem. At that moment, Nin came in furious, which led Wen to ask him why he was upset and if he had already confessed his feelings to JN. Nin criticized the essay, calling it garbage and warned that the professor would scold them if they handed it in like that. He said they shouldn't trust the delivery man either. Lin proposed that they go together to deliver it to the professor, and Wen accepted. The 4 of them headed to the teacher's office. Wen called Professor Ping and informed him that he had finished the essay, requesting that he review it. Ping replied that it was already very late, and he questioned whether she truly wanted to graduate successfully. She apologized, explaining that she wanted to perfect it. As Ping read the essay, he asked if she had written it herself, stating that he could not. I couldn't believe she was capable of producing work of that caliber. Nin revealed that Lin was the one who actually wrote it. Lin thought that the professor looked angry because the work contained errors. However, Ping asked Lin what class he was in. Nin explained that Lin wasn't a student at the institute, but a delivery person who had written the essay for money. Ping slammed his hand on the table, was in the shop, so another trip would be necessary. After the trip to the Chaotian group, Linji's completion rate increased to 25%. Before President G came out, with his hand, and Wen apologized to the professor. Then Ping remarked that the essay was a masterpiece and that only a handful of teachers would be capable of writing at that level. A female professor, he asked if it was truly such a high-level essay. Ping nodded and invited the woman to read it herself. As she read, she commented on how impressive it was. Ping referred to Lin as a genius. Lin thanked them, but mentioned he hadn't written it seriously, so it wasn't his best work. Ning thought Lin's lack of seriousness was a display of arrogance. Ping handed Lin his card, suggesting they stay in touch for future collaborations. Lin asked if he could leave, just as Wen approached him to ask for his contact information, since he had some physics questions. Lin left shortly after, and Ning became angry with Wen, pointing out that even though Lin knew a lot about physics, he was still just a delivery boy. He also commented that Lin was more attractive than he was. Lin drove off in his car and received a call from Fuyu, who informed him about problems with the machines whose deposit they had discussed that very morning. The supplier had mentioned issues with the Institute's international credit card, which resulted in him rejecting the order. It appeared that someone was secretly attempting to sabotage their subscription plan. Lin blamed Pick for the incident and instructed Fuyu to withdraw, stating that he would take care of the matter himself. He also requested Fuyu's assistance in developing a new system. Lin planned to confront whoever was responsible once he completed his current task. While he was at Ju Homes, he received an order to collect items from the street. He called the customer to inquire about what he needed to pick up, and the man responded that it was a bookshelf. Lin suggested that he hire a large van, as the furniture was too large to load by himself, reminded him to give her a good review. The shrewd businesswoman tried to avoid the 9 remaining squats in exchange for just 1 good review on the app. Lin Yi quickly bowed. The man became angry and threatened to file a complaint if Lin didn't come in person. Annoyed, Lin hung up. Shortly after, he received a message informing him that he had been suspended, temporarily from his job. He met with Sun and inquired about the meeting. Sun explained that they had discussed a specific shipping plan and would sign the contract first, with the product delivery scheduled within a few days. After chatting for a while, Lin suggested grabbing a bite to eat, but Sun declined, saying he had other plans. Lin mentioned that the car keys were in the drawer and that Sun could use any of them. Sun refused, stating he'd rather play PS3. Lin accepted this and then asked if he didn't want to drive around and have some fun with girls, but Sun refused again and started playing his game. Lin arrived at Linan Tower, where he saw Wen directing several employees, instructing them on how to arrange various objects. Wen noticed that Lin had brought him some delicious food and thanked him for it. Lin asked where Qian was, and she replied that he was in the office upstairs, suggesting that they go up and see him. Qian asked if there was some task for him. Lin explained that he wanted the two of them to pose as clients and negotiate a deal with Pick on his behalf, with the goal of purchasing terminal chips worth $150 million. Wen inquired why they needed to resort to such deception. Lin responded that it was to feign interest in the purchase, thus teaching the company a lesson for offending him. Chen expressed concern that if others thoroughly investigated, they might discover Lin's plan. Lin then asked about Didi, and Chen questioned why they should cooperate with him. Lin revealed that he owned 20% of Didi's shares, and that he would temporarily appoint them as senior executives within the company. They were both shocked by this revelation. Finally, Lin handed them a spare key, quickly, and told her to forget about the excellent review. Those 9 squats were more important to him than 5 stars on the app. He gladly unbuckled her seatbelt. On to his house, explaining that they would need a vehicle to acquire the necessary equipment for the business. When they asked where he lived, Lin replied that his house was in Juzhou Homes, which surprised them yet again. On the way to the entrance, Huan Jin ran into the president, who looked flustered. Lin clarified the situation, explaining that he had only received the travel order from President Ji. Hang Jin finally began to realize that there must be something going on between those two. The president urged Wang Yin to hurry and enter the building. Once inside, Lin Yi also received his positive review. The next ride request on the app was for a pickup at Tianye Home. It shouldn't take too long. As soon as he accepted the request, the client called him. She was a very cheerful woman, who asked him how old he was. When he said he was 24, she asked him for a strange favor, to pretend to be her boyfriend in exchange for a positive review. For Lin Yi, that was an easy task. Yes, he called out to one of the units in Tianye Home, and a pretty woman opened the door for him. Xiao Yu, a popular streamer, was captivated by Lin Yi's refined and handsome appearance. Then, another woman appeared, and Ko Tian, who is having car trouble, notices Lin approaching to offer help, and the president recognizes him from the sales department. When he asks if she would like a, Xiao Yu dragged him into the house. It turned out that both her parents were present and were quite pleased with Lin Yi's good looks, and they were curious to know what he did for a living. Lin Yi responded, honestly, he's currently working as a driver. Xiao tried to smooth things over by telling her parents that Lin was earning good money driving and saving up to start a business. The parents immediately changed their tune, though, and began insulting Lin Yi, calling him a loser. Realizing things were going south, Xiao finally invited her parents out. She insisted that her new boyfriend drive them, but Lin Yi apologized, saying his car only had room for 2 people. Hearing this, the whole family assumed he was talking about a motorcycle. Even so, it was time to leave, and everyone headed towards the parking lot, which was quite a distance from the building. The parents' disapproval of their daughter's choices was obvious. When Lin pressed the key fob, the Pagani's luxurious doors opened, shocking the entire family. Xiao's eyes lit up at the sight of the luxury. Lin Yi simply told her to get in, while he settled into the driver's seat. His parents were practically pushing Xiao Yu into Lin Yi's lap, their destination being the Times Square shopping center. On the way, Xiao Yu wanted to ask for one more small favor. As a streamer, she wanted to do a live stream in the car for a while. Lin agreed, provided she left him a good review on the app. When Xiao took out her phone, which had a phone holder, her lively and loud streamer personality came to the forefront. The live chat exploded with surprise at seeing her inside a Pagani driven by a guy. Some accused her of using her body to be in that situation. Xiao maintained a professional and playful attitude with the chat, but inwardly, she wouldn't mind doing a little extra service for the man at her side. Right, instead of worrying about her broken-down car, she immediately accepts his offer. Just then, an arrogant blonde appears and insists on driving the president in his luxurious sports car. Sighed. After arriving at Times Square, she kept her end of the deal and gave Lin Yi a perfect review. Louis, the maid, appeared out of nowhere, granting him 200,000 points of competition and a 35% advancement in his career. He would be rewarded with the Songhi International Circuit and some top-notch, first-class driving skills. Even he knew that was shy, the second-best circuit in the world, but before that, he turned to Xiao to ask for help buying a new phone. Inside the phone store, the broadcast took him to the Apo store, but that's already registered. He just walked in and pointed to the latest model, requesting the maximum specifications. Xiao Yu tried to stop him, since ordering it online would be much cheaper. Lin Yi stroked her hair and told her not to worry about it. The staff quickly wrapped his order and suggested that he should purchase a case to protect his 10,000 phone. He refused to buy it, as he didn't like how it felt in his hands. So, instead of buying a case, he decided to flaunt his wealth and buy multiple phones so that if one broke, he could easily swap it out for another. He wanted to buy 5 of each color. When asked if he was sure, he added a laptop to the purchase. Xiao Yu and Suam simply watched as Lin spent a fortune on a mountain of gadgets. All the commotion boosted the audience to 5 million, 5 times larger than usual, and realizing the opportunity to create incredible content, he asked if Lin wanted to buy anything else. Lin was eager to spend his astronomical wealth on a watch. His first stop was at Constantine. The store exuded class and luxury, but the staff were anything but classy. They saw Xiao live streaming and considered them pests pretending to be rich. Successful streamers exist, but she is not charmed, and instead feels disgusted. He continues to insist, but Lin confidently confronts him. The president ignores the blonde and leaves with Lin. The guy follows. They are extremely rare. Besides, this is Constantine, a watch brand for millionaires. An ordinary streamer can't afford their prices. Unaware of the prejudice to which they were being subdued, the couple continued browsing the catalog. Xiao Yu herself admitted that each of those watches cost as much as a down payment on a car or a house. Lin saw something he liked it and asked to see it up close. The manager approached with a smile and assured them that the watches could not be taken out unless they were purchased, but that's a ridiculous rule. A sensible customer wouldn't buy something so expensive without seeing it up close. Then, an old man with an attractive partner entered the store. He wore a gold chain and a lascivious smile. Mr. Lin and Miss Lin seemed to be regular customers at Constantine, and the manager was quick to serve them. Miss Lin was in love with the gold watch on display and fervently asked for that piece as a birthday gift. This time, the manager gladly took the watch from the display case so the customers could examine it more closely. Xiao Yu was confused. Lin was stunned by such a blatant display of disrespect. The live chat was beginning to fall apart as viewers couldn't stand it. Lin Yi walked over and questioned the manager about why they were being treated unfairly. She explained half-heartedly that clients are separated and treated according to different levels. To put it bluntly, this store is run by a bunch of snobs. Xiao Yu tried to defuse the situation, accepting the unfair treatment and suggesting that they should be grateful for the opportunity to see the luxury gallery. Lin Yi retreated and exited the store while Xiao Yu continued trying to calm him down. Little did they know, our boy possesses what is called fool's money. He then took that to Patek Philippe. This time, until everyone stops, spotting a $4.5 million Pagani, a rare sight. When Lin claims the car is his, the blonde doesn't believe him, but Lin unlocks the car with a... They were greeted courteously by the attendant. Neither he nor Xiao Yu were very familiar with the brand, so they decided to ask the live chat for help. The people in the chat continued, suggesting the 175th anniversary limited edition. The chat actively encouraged Lin to buy the watch. He was pleased and told Xiao'o to let the trolls continue. He approached the assistant and formally placed an order for the Patek Philippe 175th anniversary limited edition watch. All the staff members were surprised and horrified. Lin took out his premium card with virtually unlimited funds and asked if there would be any issues. All the staff members immediately smiled and explained that the watch still needed to be shipped from overseas. Xiao'o wasn't very enthusiastic about this, but she couldn't do anything about it since there were only 6 pieces for sale in the world. The news of a guy spending 1.5 million on a single watch spread rapidly like wildfire. Even the horrible former store manager rushed to Patek Philippe to see what all the fuss was about. Dealt with the commotion. As soon as she saw Lin Yi, she realized the huge mistake she had made. After what she did, the manager even had the audacity to approach Lin Yi and offer him their new arrivals. And, he had said before, Lin Yi stared her in the eyes and refused, claiming that he was too poor to be served by her. The manager would never be able to recover from the mistake she made. She berated herself repeatedly for missing the opportunity to earn a fortune in commissions. Outside in T Square, Lin Yi slipped one of his 20 new phones to Xiao Yu. It was his way of thanking her for spending so much time with him. She happily accepted it and also thanked him for such a fun day. As he drove away in his Pagani, Xiao Yu couldn't believe that, click, proving he wasn't lying. Realizing that Lin might be incredibly wealthy, the blonde tries to curry favor, but Lin speeds out of the parking lot. Inside the car, the Kurai, good, gentle, rich, and handsome men still existed. He was the complete package. His next stop is his reward, the Songhai International Circuit. In the reception hall, he was denied entry because the circuit was closed to visitors that day. He insisted he wasn't a visitor, but rather someone with business to discuss with the manager. The receptionist, she was immediately forced to call the manager. Just then, the door opened, and a wealthy young man named Inan entered, visibly angry, and accompanied by his friends. Seeing what appeared to be a visitor in the lobby, another attendant apologized to Mr. Inan, assuring him that the gentleman would be escorted out right away. Lin Yi grew curious about who that arrogant kid was. The assistant explained that Inan was a figure you didn't want to mess with in Songhi. In the manager's office, Zhou Ao was filled with joy. He would have picked up Lin Vana if he had the chance, because from that point on, he would be her boss after buying the circuit. When confronted with the bureaucracy, he simply asked the manager to proceed in the same manner as before. He had always managed the place. Now it was time to see the circuit itself firsthand. He wanted to take his Pagani for a few laps around the track, but there were already cars in the middle of a race. After the lap, Inan angrily confronted the manager, the portly Atao, for allowing some random guy onto the track when the entire circuit was supposed to be booked. The manager explained that Lin Yi, the new CEO of Songhi International Circuit, was there to inspect his property and wanted to do a few laps himself, so he ordered everyone to clear the track, dismissing everyone with Inan with a refund. Inan must have respected Lin Yi's straightforwardness, since no one else in this city would dare to do that to him, so he offered him a cigarette and proposed a race. The president can't believe that one of her employees drives such a luxurious vehicle. Lin explains that he has always come from a wealthy family and only works different jobs for fun. Since Inan has been nicknamed the god of race cars, he would be happy to give Lin Yi a 10-second head start. Inan wanted to see what kind of car this CEO drove, offering one of the yours in case there was a mismatch. Lin had his Pagani brought over, leaving Inan stunned into silence. Still, Inan remained confident that his $3 million modified car, it would be an even competition. The track was prepared, and the racers were in position. As soon as the beautiful race flag girl gave the signal, the tires screeched on the races tarmac, and both drivers accelerated incredibly fast, but Lin immediately took the lead, while Inan slowed down to enter the curve. The new CEO advanced without hesitation. Not even a professional driver would dare to take it at that speed. A small mistake could lead to death. Thanks to the driving skill granted by his reward system, maneuvering in difficult places became a piece of cake for Lin Yi. Inan's racing friends couldn't believe what they were seeing. Lin had overtaken their best racer by a considerable margin. The racing flag enthusiastically congratulated their new boss. Fortunately, Inan wasn't a bad loser. He knew when to admit that he had been fairly defeated. Embarrassed, he asked if Lin Yi had modified his Pagani to make it roar with such speed. For a moment, Lin Yi explained that Inan had started the race the wrong way. Entering into a scrutinizing analysis, Inan maturely accepted the criticism and asked for Lin Yi's contact information in case he needed anything in Songhai. Checking his phone, Lin Yi received a new, nearby ride request. Now that his main job was calling him, he left everything in the hands of manager Ai Tao, even allowing Inan and his friends to continue playing on the track for free. This week, he will try working as a car driver, and the president will be his first passenger. The president happily accepts and requests the ride through the app. Upon arriving at the office of Ka, when asked what was so urgent that he had to leave so soon, Lin Yi honestly answered that he had just received a blah blah order that needed attention at the villa, Yunsui. Lin arrived at the huge house and entered immediately. President Ji wasn't ready yet, but he was already inside. He stopped her before she could say another word and let the Riz work its magic. She invited him over to her house to play games or watch movies while she finished getting ready. He sat down in front of her laptop and noticed an email notification. Curiosity got the better of him, and he glanced at the email. It was an order update for a black lace bra in size 36C. After seeing that, he became even more curious, fearing that he would see what she had been up to. President Ji came out of the bathroom, still soaking wet from head to toe. She tried to stop him from seeing her laptop, her face flushed with embarrassment. Because her feet were still wet, she stumbled and slipped. Fortunately, Lin Yi was there to catch her before she fell, but perhaps he was a second too late. All he managed to do was accidentally rip the towel off of her, his body. As the president regained her balance, she could have stopped him from seeing her online underwear orders, but she accidentally revealed her forbidden treasures to him. Lin Yi, he fainted from blood loss because of his nosebleed. The president was mortified and quickly covered her naked body with the towel. He then provoked her, saying he had only been seeing a bunch of spam before she rushed in as if she had something to hide. After overcoming her embarrassment, President Ji used a beautiful hair clip as the key centerpiece of her outfit. She looked like a ravishing pirate queen, ready for the meeting she was attending that night. Lin Yi's mind quickly wandered to the possibility of seeing her doing deep squats. Housing and rural urban development, she pays the fare and exits the car with a smile. Linwei, his system assistant, appears and grants him 7.5 million and 50,000 skill points, deep while wearing her dress. She caressed his chest and assured him that she would fulfill her promise. All he had to do was draw the curtains so they could have some privacy. As soon as he complied with her request, Lin Yi settled onto the luxurious sofa. President Gile cast a flirtatious glance before starting her workout, making sure she wouldn't have a wardrobe malfunction, and gave him a full view of what she considered the world's most perfect squat. After fulfilling her promise, she complained of fatigue, suggesting that they should go to the Peninsula Hotel immediately. But Lin Yi had more urgent matters to take care of in the bathroom. Half an hour later, he emerged from the bathroom energized and refreshed for some unknown reason. Upon leaving the house, the two of them found themselves coincidentally running into President Ji's parents. They exchanged blank stares for a moment. Then, the father smiled and asked if they had finished their activity. It turns out that they had been spending time in the house, but they saw the curtains were closed and didn't want to interrupt. Even the mother was okay with it, saying that adults do adult things. He tried to clear up the misunderstanding, but his parents didn't believe a single word he said. Now, even H's mother is giving Grandpa's birthday gift to Lin. He simply accepted politely, feeling uncomfortable. President Ji, her face red with embarrassment, turned to him and asked to be taken away from the house as quickly as possible. Upon arriving at the Peninsula Hotel, Lin Yi reminded the president to give him an excellent review. She was beginning to suspect that this guy apparently only liked her for her excellent reviews. However, Lin Yi is very serious about his career. Once inside the hotel, Lin Yi reappeared, this time wearing a cheerleader costume and handing out 200,000 proficiency points for driving a total of 100, increasing his work progress by 5%. His first trip with the president has given him a large sum of money, and Lin cannot hide his huge smile. The Peninsula Hotel is a 5-star hotel. His career completion rate increased to 55%, and he was rewarded with 21% equity of blah blah blah. He had just completed a few orders, and now owned the majority of shares in blah blah company. Given that blah blah travel company has a market value exceeding $50 billion, selling his stake would easily generate over $10 billion, but he knew he didn't need to attract attention to himself. He could earn a few hundred million in dividends each year as the app took off. Now that he is close to completing his current career, he will be able to activate a new career at 90% completion and obtain even more generous rewards at 100%. Hearing those words, a spark of excitement was definitely ignited. Of excitement within him. The next pickup is at Starbucks, and the destination is the Houston Pavilion Villa. Since it's on his way home, he can call it a day after completing the order. The client was a bright, red-haired girl named Soo-young. Lin skillfully maneuvered to the curb to pick up his passenger. Soo-young was genuinely impressed. She was beginning to think that she looked so good that rich guys were drawn to her. She excitedly hopped into the passenger seat and buckled her seatbelt, asking where he was taking her. He realized that she wasn't the type of girl for casual flings. Lin Yi clarified that he was just the driver, revealing his Yango's true colors. She felt deceived, thinking that she was being picked up by a rich guy, only to find a clueless driver on the road. She kept telling him to slow down because she couldn't take good photos. Warning: Lin Yi not to scratch the high-end car. He insisted that he owned the car, but Sue thought he was just showing off. Then she told him to stop being so delusional and, without hesitation, Lin had always been an exceptional worker, but that which made his life impossible simply because he didn't flatter her with gifts. As he exits the building, his girlfriend, Ceciliu, calls him unexpectedly, and one of the best in Shanghai. As Lin's ex-girlfriend Ceciliu mentioned, to convince her new boyfriend Uni to pay $20,000 for a room, she now regrets not having met. Just be a miserable driver. Lin Yi took pride in his work. He enjoyed driving to earn billions of dollars. As for Sue, she claimed that she had a decent career and that he was out of her league. Feeling disrespected, Lin Yi slammed on the brakes, making the tires screech. The sudden stop caused the seatbelt to tighten around his Yang. Lin was tired of it. If he were truly a great person, he could just get out and buy his own car and drive it for the first time. Ever since he started with the blah blah job, Lin Yi demanded that the customer leave immediately. Sue was left on the sidewalk, threatening to file a complaint with blah blah headquarters. First, she insulted his profession, and now she wanted to ruin his job. The car records, conversations, so false complaints wouldn't work. Lin Yi drove off, leaving the witch behind. Once he returned home to Houston, he finally received his first bad review. Watching his rating drop definitely bothered him. Then, the blah blah regional agent started calling his phone, an infuriated agent. She began to scold him for scolding a customer, and the offices were considering deducting from his security deposit. When he stood his ground and refused to be treated with disrespect, the agent threatened to suspend his operational status. When he requested a formal investigation, the agent finally closed Lin's account and hung up on him. He was very angry, to say the least. Upon entering his new business, Lin was greeted by Mr. Suan, the property manager. He was given a complete tour of the place, which was furnished with expensive furniture. Expensive. All the accessories were designed by top international designers. Lin Yi tried sitting on one of the sofas and confirmed that Mr. Suan knew his business when it came to furniture. He was a millionaire before, but his night takes a turn for the worse when his ex walks into the lobby. Lin, noticing the hotel's poor quality, makes a remark that offends Uni, who shouts at the guards to kick him out. Furniture. There was also the matter of the preliminary housekeeping assistants waiting for their interviews in the office. Upon arriving at the meeting with the cleaning assistants, a face appeared. Familiar. Su-young, the witch, was among the candidates and still had that unpleasant attitude. Mr. Suan yelled at the lady for being disrespectful to the boss. Judging by her clothing, it seemed like she was one of the interviewees. Su-young began to divert attention and call out to Lin Yi, a poor commoner lost in that exorbitant house. It was then that Mr. Sauso finally had enough and slapped her for being disrespectful to pavilion owner Huso. But the stupid witch can't understand how a car driver could own such a prestigious business. When Lin Yi asked if a driver couldn't buy villas, Mr. Suan was quick to clarify the situation. Suan strongly urged Su-young to apologize, and her head finally started working. She lowered her necklace, revealing her chest, and gave her most insincere apology to the boss. Lin Yi simply cannot stand her atrocious breath and orders her to be taken away. The security team removed her from the premises. The selection process for cleaning assistants continued, with only 4 candidates remaining. Lin Yi determined that none of these girls were good enough and would not be selected, but they would receive $1,000 as compensation. Suddenly, President Gill sent another message requesting a pickup. Since he had to rush out, he left the cleaning business in the care of Mr. Suan. At the Peninsula Hotel, it seemed that Miss Ji was the life of the party while conversing with an old friend. A man named Din Yi appeared out of nowhere. Miss Ji wasn't interested in staying any longer, as she had already called Lin Yi. Speaking of Lin, the attractive young man was casually strolling through the lobby of the EPS. Expel him. However, instead of stopping Lin, the security team shows him the highest respect. Lin was supposed to be a nobody, wasn't he? Sue starts to suspect that perhaps he has hotel in search of President G. Her face lit up as soon as she spotted him. The opposite was true for that guy named Din Yi. Her friend commented that Lin Yi could debut on television with a lead role solely based on his good looks. Lin Yi felt annoyed and scoffed, saying there was no point in being handsome if all he was a chauffeur. When Lin Yi tried to confront him, the bastard backed away. Lin Yi then turned to Miss G and whispered even more insults directed at the man. That's when she finally had enough and defended her man. But it's well known that Lin Yi bought a high-end Mercedes-Benz, a car that a mere driver wouldn't be able to afford. Miss G just wanted to get out of there, so she apologized to Lin Yi on the behalf of her drunk friends. Enraged, the drunk men continued to chase the president and the driver through the parking structure. Lin Yi showed off his car, up close, boasting that it cost him $300,000. Miss G mentioned that Lin Yi couldn't stop talking about Pagani cars back in college. Those cars, they are the real deal. Well, it turns out, one was parked right next to his car. Din Yi was the first to rush towards the luxury vehicle. Lin Yi walked up to him and instructed the fool to move aside. To get Din Yi to move, he had to open the doors and call out to Miss G. The two drunks stared, dumbfounded and surprised, before finally leaving. Lin Yi gave them a valuable lesson about not letting poverty limit their imagination. After an average day of teaching bad people a lesson with his wealth, Lin Yi left with Miss G. She kept apologizing for subjecting him to those snobs, but he really didn't care. Since he'd had a few drinks, he wanted to sober up at the beach. Lin missed out on a significant opportunity. The head of security invites Lin to a meeting to brief him on the hotel's operations. Overwhelmed by the financial reports, Lin simply requests that they also thought that the beach at midnight was a good idea. The system then established another goal: 10 good reviews in order to get 100,000 reward points. From the last trip tonight, he would have made 7. But for now, it was time to relax on Arena Blanca Beach. While they were still in the car, Chingy asked him to turn around, because she wanted to take off her socks and walk through the sand. He continued to tease her about her pragas, which earned him a very severe pinch in the side. Now that he's been pinched to behave, Miss G can finally take off her stockings in peace. The two got out and immediately felt the soft breeze that eased their worries. Since her parents have been insisting that Linnea attend her grandfather's birthday, she wanted to formally invite him as a fake boyfriend. He has been receiving a lot of these requests lately, and Lin gladly agreed to help for the sake of that deep squat performance they did a while back. Then she noticed that the waterfront properties of the Huso Pavilion had the lights lit up. Thanks to their exorbitant price, these properties remained unsold, making it the first time the lights had been left on overnight. Upon hearing this, Lin Yi had an idea. What if they drove to those overpriced houses and spent the night? President G simply laughed, assuming he was joking, but he was completely serious about his suggestion and eager to take her there. At the entrance, she confessed that she had participated in the bidding for the land, but lacked sufficient funds, and was eliminated in the first round of bidding. He noticed a flicker of envy in her expression as she gazed towards the gates. One of the most prized features of this: continue with business as usual. During the meeting, another employee rushes in to report an emergency. A customer is complaining that she can't rent the Mercedes-Benz property is its mineral water pool. Sensing her curiosity about the pool, Lin Yi took her hand and offered to give her a tour of the grounds so she could see it. She was content just watching from the outside, thinking it would be too embarrassing if she were kicked out. Lin Yi asked her what she would do if he, by chance, could bring her inside. She promised to swim in a bikini so he could feast his eyes on the sight. He would accept that challenge any day of the week. He hurriedly put her back in the car, and they entered through the front door, where the resort staff were lined up. As soon as the Pagani entered, the staff bowed in respect. President G did not expect something like this to happen. Meanwhile, Lin was extremely pleased with her surprised reaction. He pulled over to the side, where tons of fruit trees could be seen. He wanted to get her some fresh fruit, but she felt too embarrassed to ask for any. She was doing a good job of acting reserved, until she spotted the ornate swimming pool in the distance. Now, since he has seen the mineral water pool, it's time for him to fulfill his promise to Linji. The problem is that she can't hold up her end of the deal without a bikini, but she isn't closing the door on that possibility. She assured Lin that she was a woman of her word and wouldn't back out. Since it was very windy outside, she just wanted to go back now, but it would be easier to go into one of the houses and take a look around. Glance. President G felt uncomfortable entering a large house without the owner's permission, even though Lin Yi assured her that there was no one inside, so there was nothing to fear. She touched the biometric door panel and was recognized as Prince Lin Yi. President Ji finally realized that Lin Yi owned everything, so he gave her full access to explore the wanted. Lin decides to speak with the client, and upon knocking on the door of Suite 1704, he's greeted by a beautiful young woman with green hair. Lin introduces himself as the manager and promises to resolve the issue. Place. Once again, the president had been tricked into a very sexy challenge, but she was too enamored with the interior design of the house to stay angry for very long. After, it's all $1 billion property, and thinking she was being tricked again, she asked if Lin had enough money to buy the entire Huso pavilion, to which he sat down, and disdainfully confirmed that he had indeed done so. When she inquired about the source of his astronomical wealth, Lin couldn't go into details at the time, but now she understands why this side guy is only dedicated to chauffeuring clients around in a luxury car. Since it was already late, he suggested she spend the night in one of the countless rooms available, and she agreed. When she asked if there were women's pajamas available, Lin Yi jokingly suggested she just sleep naked, promising not to peek. When she blushed, he finally relented and told her to look for some pajamas in any of the rooms. The first thing Miss Egji did after choosing a room was to take a shower. Meanwhile, Lin Yi was busy reading and waiting just outside. He heard a loud noise and President Ji's voice calling him in, which alarmed him. A guest had just fallen in her shower. As soon as he entered the bathroom and saw the beautiful young woman sitting on the floor wearing only a towel, she might have broken her foot and needed help. Lin Yi swallowed hard, thinking this was his chance. He gently helped her to her feet. Now, both of them were blushing under the hot shower water. When their eyes met, they both knew what was about to happen. They exchanged a passionate kiss, passionate under the stream of water pouring from the shower. He asked if the temperature was all right, and she responded by removing her towel. Lin Yi received the invitation to finally explore. Miss Gu Jinsu is delighted with her appearance. Since the Mercedes-Benz is unavailable, he offers her a ride in his Pagani. Although she hesitates because of the car's luxury, Lin offers to take her, Miss G's body, with full access. After a few minutes, the shower wasn't the only thing dripping on the floor anymore. Let's just say it was a long night for the two of them. The next day, they woke up to the sound of birds singing outside. President Ji opened the curtains to let in some sunlight. She seemed more vibrant than usual, but it was almost time to leave for work. She woke up Lin Yi, who was naked, as he complained about serving her all night, only to have to serve her again. Right after waking up, President Ji was excited to go to work with a renewed spirit. She even promised to give Lin Yi a perfect performance review. The trip to the Peninsula Hotel was quick and easy. She arrived just in time. Now she could finally have breakfast before another full day of work. He entered the hotel's highly rated restaurant. The waiter even offered to have the chefs prepare something special for him, but he didn't want to stand out, so the waiter agreed to his regular order. Lin Yi sat down at one of the tables and called for a waitress. To his surprise, it was Liliu, his former boss, who had fired him. Instead, after feeling bad and apologizing, she even had the audacity to hold a grudge against Lin Yi for reporting her. Lin Yi slammed the menu on the table and demanded to be treated with respect as a guest. Liliu, she refused to do so, seeing him only as a rich woman's plaything. Another waitress warned Lily not to argue with the important people, but she still saw him as her employee, who was nothing more than his good looks. Hearing all those insults and feeling the curious gazes of the other guests, Lin Yi simply sighed, smiled, and asked another waitress to bring Son over. Lily thought this loser must have overheard the general manager's name on TV or something. This girl still hasn't learned her lesson, so Lin Yi would gladly give her an wherever she needs to go. Meanwhile, in the lobby, Sis Lu has already dumped her new boyfriend, hoping to win Lin back. Even her friend doubts she can get him back after having intensive course. Son rushed to the dining area, and Lily immediately started badmouthing Lin Yi, calling him a poor commoner who was causing trouble. But the general manager began to get angry with the waitress couldn't even recognize the big boss, even after hearing his name. She simply couldn't believe that her employee was the owner of the entire Peninsula Hotel. Son vowed to blacklist Liliu for causing trouble, ensuring she wouldn't be able to get another job. As she was dragged away by the security team, she began to beg for forgiveness. To Lin Yi, the manager apologized to the big boss for interrupting his breakfast. Lin Yi only reminded the manager to conduct a thorough background check in the future. While he continued his interrupted breakfast, an unknown number called him. He answered, and the voice on the other end introduced herself as the vice president of Blah Blah Company. Would he like to meet with the new majority shareholder on behalf of the company? Since he still had work to do, he would simply call the vice president in the afternoon. She did not object and politely agreed to it. Work according to Lin Yi's schedule. Hyuni, the vice president, is a dazzling executive assisted by her assistant, Xiao Yun. Hyani also has a full schedule today, so Xiao Yun, he immediately called a car using their product, the Blah Blah app. With his stomach full of good food, it's time for Lin to get back to work. Coincidentally, the closest client is also located at the Peninsula Hotel, so the pickup should be easy. He waited at the main entrance and greeted Miss Jian with a big, charming smile. Not even a vice president of a multi-billion-dollar company was immune to his appeal. As he walked towards his car, his already handsome appearance was amplified several times. The vice president couldn't help but thrown away years of their relationship. Sis Liu promises that if she gets back with Lin, her friend can also take a ride in the Pagani, but just then, she sees her ex, who comes down into the lobby accompanied by the ask if he really was a car driver using a Pagani as his daily driver. He confirmed nonchalantly and invited Miss Jian to get in. Happy and a little excited, she got in the car and fastened his seatbelt. Miss Jian looked around the car's interior like a child visiting a museum, impressed and intrigued by Lin Yi's methods. There are technically no rules when it comes to driving a sports car, but Miss Jian sternly reminded him to follow the rules, unless he wanted to be suspended. She also admitted that she was the vice president of the company Blah Blah. Thinking she was just showing off, Lin Yi also admitted that he was a shareholder of Blah Blah, eager to prove that he wasn't lying either. The vice president even showed him her employee ID. Now, the strange coincidence began to surprise Lin Yi, who seriously admitted that he bought 21% of Blah Blah's shares, Blah yesterday, and that they had both spoken on the phone earlier that day. The vice president began to get flustered and apologize if she had ever offended the new boss. She still wanted to have a meeting. Adequate. But Lin is working on a tight schedule and needs to fulfill several orders first. Upon arriving at Miss Jian's destination, she smiled and encouraged him to. He would call her when it suited him. Just as he was about to make the payment through the app, an error occurred. It turns out that the Blah Blah regional office had its suspension lifted after violating the platform's regulations. Jolix Corporation handled the entire process, and he just happened to be parked in the corporation's parking lot. Miss Jian explained that Helix is the Blah Blah operator in the coastal regions. She was angry to see Helix disrespecting the majority shareholder of the company they work for, the vice president, most beautiful socialite, a woman with a striking figure. Sis Liu tried to act friendly and called out to Miss Jin, her personal secretary, all while trying to win Lin Yi back. This assured her that he would handle the matter appropriately, even going as far as suspending Helix's agency rights. But that would be boring, so Lin wanted to accompany her. Entering the conference room with a loud bang, everyone's attention was drawn to Lin and the vice president. He introduced himself to the executives and brought up the matter of his suspended certificate. Buendalu, the CEO of Helix, furiously called Luanfa, the operations manager, to deal with this annoyance. Luanfa turned his anger towards Lin and began to Justin, berate him for being arrogant, even threatening to call security. But Lin Yi remained unfazed and simply took a seat at the end of the table. Then, he instructed Miss Jian to take care of those bastards in his conference room. She immediately demonstrated why she had become the vice president of such a huge corporation. Addressing the entire Helix team on behalf of Blah, she formally revoked their agency rights with no room for discussion. The CEO of the subsidiary, with his shiny forehead, did not recognize the vice president of its parent company. She tossed her employee ID onto the conference table for all to see, and the color drained from the faces of the men present. The CEO then turned to his operations manager, seeking an explanation. Luan Fa stated that Linji was suspended for insulting a client and damaging the brand's reputation. However, that is irrelevant, considering Linji owns 21% of the shares of Blah Blah, making her the second largest shareholder in the company. Miss Han doesn't care if she insulted a client or anything of that nature. Helix was already in dire straits, and they were simply continuing to dig themselves in deeper. The vice president explained that Mr. Lin was in the process of learning about the business, but instead, his certification was suspended. Now that Helix has lost its agency, just a few minutes prior, he was fired, and now his girlfriend is breaking up with him. She tells him that she no longer wants to see his pathetic existence, and when he asks if she already has, ridiculous act only angered him. She tried to use her tears as a weapon to manipulate him and make him feel guilty, but that's when Miss Jin intervened to help him. Writes, the CEO turned to his operations manager, instructing him to smooth things over with Mr. Lino and to face the ensuing consequences. The man who, only moments before, was screaming, he now knelt down and begged for forgiveness. Lin Yi mercilessly struck the man down. Judging by the man's attitude and how he handled Lin Yi's case, he must have intimidated many people over the years. As the majority shareholder of blah blah, he proudly supported Miss Jian's decision. Just in time, Miss Ji called her on the phone, giving her an excuse to leave, delegating the rest of the dirty work to Vice President General. It turns out that Grandpa Ji's birthday is tomorrow, and the president wants to buy clothes for both of them. Lin Yi would be delighted to pick her up for shopping tonight. Plus, he can't go to a birthday party empty-handed. Perhaps the old man enjoys landscape paintings or calligraphy works. The vice president was quick and decisive in resolving the issue with the excited crowd. She even reinstated Lin Yi's driver status and promoted him, granting him the highest privileges from now on. Onwards, the app will have more features, giving you greater freedom in dealing with clients. This feature would be a great help in speeding up your progress. While the sophisticated vice president was still there, and she also asked him for a place to buy a good painting. She suggested Sandakian paintings, and Lin Yi almost fainted. It turns out she has access to high-end art. Lin Yi would have gladly paid for one, but she refused to accept money from her big boss. The painting will be delivered to the Peninsula Hotel, but Lin Yi doesn't like to be indebted to anyone for anything. He would be happy to pay 1% of his shares in exchange for the painting. That should be around 80 million in cash, which is more than. He lied, implying he was much better in bed than Lin's pathetic ex. He quickly played along, acting like a passionate lover, and holding Miss Jinsu while complimenting her. Generous, but now he has to leave. Before leaving, he instructed Miss Hyun to simply run the company the same way as before. He almost forgot to send her an invitation to meet the company president in Jiangcheng. He accepted the invitation but will decide on the date. Returning to Jiangcheng is a bit complicated for him, as he grew up in an orphanage there. On the way to President Ji's building, he received another positive review, needing only one more to complete the mission. Checking the app, he managed to pick up an order for travel to his destination. He is about to pick up Jianxin, at Quinsta Square. She's on the phone with a pretentious guy, bragging about all the lingerie she bought. Lin arrived, and as usual, the client was surprised to see a luxury car picking her up. He simply smiled and informed her that he would be her driver for the day. Zhang Hyunsin praised Blah Company for having such a unique marketing strategy. When Lin Yi insisted that he was the owner of the car, another lady began to badmouth him and call him delusional. Once again, he doesn't have time to argue. With arrogant clients, the mission takes precedence over road skirmishes. Zhang Hyunsin started to panic, noticing the unfamiliar route he was being driven along. It was then that he flew into a rage because Lin simply wanted to take a shortcut to the hotel he owned. The moment this woman got into his car, the first thing he noticed was the bag of outfits, specifically lingerie, that she was carrying. He began to suspect he had a professional in the passenger seat, just as he had imagined. They arrived at the hotel's side entrance faster than the map indicated. The map, which also allowed for a much more discreet entrance for Jianxin. This only further confirmed his suspicions about this woman being inside their hotel. To make matters even worse, flexibility. After that, the fake couple left the lobby, leaving Cecilia speechless and embarrassed. Lin Yi was finally able to reprimand her for being a narcissist. He received another bad review, stating that Jianin is evil to the core. It seems his streak of good reviews is starting to dry up. At least the workday has finished, and now he can pick up the president. Ji arrived at Times Square. He carried their bags as they entered the building, teasing Miss J for yet another one of her excellent reviews. She insisted that her review that night would depend on his performance, but he knew she was only saying that to make him work harder. Times Square. President Ji's eyes. Ji lit up when she saw her favorite swimsuit stores. Lin Yi whispered that she must be buying a swimsuit to fulfill her promise. She still feels cheated by how that bet turned out, but it's part of the appeal. He insisted that he never forced her to do anything, and that she always agrees to bet and challenge him. The shop assistant welcomed them to the store, offering her assistance. After browsing the store a few times, President Ji still hadn't chosen anything to buy. He felt bad, since she couldn't decide between the store selections. When asked why she was acting strangely, Miss Ji insisted that she didn't want a swimsuit anymore, and that Lin Yi should buy one for himself. Lin Yi got excited, and offered to help her choose from all the different styles. Then, she whispered the real reason she felt embarrassed. It wasn't because of the styles, but because the store didn't have her size. The shop assistant mentioned that they had sizes A, B, C, and D in stock. However, when it came to President Ji's voluptuous figure, they would need at least one swimsuit in size E to properly cover what needed to be covered. Lin Yi didn't think it was a big deal. They could just check the brand store next door. As they entered this hallway, unfaithful, and unworthy of love. This verbal assault left her kneeling in the hallway, completely dejected. Inside the Pagani, Miss Jinsu asked him to take her to the Hodis plunder. Full of high-quality swimsuits, Lin Yi felt like he had just discovered paradise. He was captivated by the poster of the green-haired lingerie model in the center of the store, and President Ji struggled to pull him away from the display. When they finally had a chance to look at the products inside the store, the sales clerk eagerly showed them, delighted to show off her latest bikinis. His eyes lingered on the daring black bikini, but he ultimately chose a cuter one. Lin Yi was brutally honest, saying that she should get something that would show off her irresistible figure. What she really needed was the one that had caught her eye from the start, the black bikini that could enhance her curves. President Ji blushed and felt embarrassed by such a forward suggestion. At the end of the day, she gave in and bought the black bikini in size E. To her surprise, Lin Yi had also wrapped up the cute swimsuit. President Ji was confused. Lin Yi actually disapproved of the cute one. Well, he just wanted President Ji to be comfortable, so she could wear the cute swimsuit when going out and save the black one for private. When the two of them were together, after shopping for swimsuits, Miss Ji wanted to go up to the 4th floor to check out some custom-made dresses. She found a blue and often's purple dress that she wanted to try on. While she was doing that, Lin Yi sat down to relax outside the dressing room. Then, she peeked her head out and softly called for him to come inside. He asked, with slight hesitation, if it would be appropriate to do so, and President Ji's blush deepened. She just needed help zipping up her dress. She presented her silky skin to him, waiting for him to help with the zipper. Lin was captivated by her figure. He was supposed to see a shawl covering her back, but he could only see her in the provocative dress. Seeing her curves outlined in the dress, Lin Yi, grand, where a classmate's wedding was to be held. Outside the hotel, a group of gossiping busybodies were watching the entrance to badmouth Jinsu, accusing her of being a penniless liar. Estimated that they should have bought size F swimsuits instead. Once the zipper was closed, President Ji radiated confidence. She liked how Lin reacted. Yi saw her and knew she would be happy to take the dress. The clerk agreed that the fit was immaculate, but another couple of customers had just arrived, and the girl started to. They were teasing an old man named San because of the beautiful dress President Ji was wearing. When Mr. San asked for a dress of the same style, the shop assistant apologized, explaining that they only made one of each style to order. Angry, San demanded the dress, even if they had to take it from the customers who had arrived first, believing that those two young men couldn't even pay for it. Hearing that derogatory comment calling her poor, Miss Ji became upset. The other person, who had slipped their arm through the old man's, mocked her, saying that the price of 13,000 was a large sum for people without money. President Ji proudly stated that 13,000 was just a trivial amount for her. She could buy it herself, but the other person would need the pocket of another man to do the same thing. Mr. Sang proclaimed that he would add another 3,000 to the price to acquire the dress, but that went against the store's policy. It was then, when Lin Yin intervened and offered an additional 30,000, while also insulting the interested party's flat chest, thereby ruining the dress's appeal. When the sales clerk suggested the idea of making a tailored dress, Mr. Sang's intensity lessened. With those extra matters settled, President Ji thanked Lin for another enjoyable evening. She also selected some outfits for him to put on. The shop assistants, and even Miss Ji herself, were left speechless upon seeing Lin trying on perfectly fitted suits. President Ji hurried to finish her fitting, as money. But when she stepped out of the multi-million-dollar sports car looking like a high-class woman, the gossips fell silent. Jinsu had pretended to be Lin Yi's girlfriend to help him in the lobby. She knew that if Lin Yi tried on any more suits, the girls in the store would likely swarm him at that very moment. With their chosen outfits in hand, it was time to pay and return home. Returning to the place where they shared their first night together, Lin Yi was relaxing outdoors, only for his heart to start pounding at the sight of President Ji in her alluring black swimsuit. While he looked at her, she did the same, admiring his physique as he stood there, showing off his toned abdomen. He playfully teased her for looking at him. President Ji timidly averted her gaze and turned away. She might be wearing a daring swimsuit, but she's still that shy girl deep down. Now that she's showing off her figure in a bikini, her promise should be considered fulfilled. At the edge of the pool, he began to work his magic on her. He playfully dragged President Ji into the water. She started to panic and held on to Lin Yi tightly, since she couldn't really swim. Lin Yi assured her that she would be fine as long as they were together. He could also teach her how to swim, freestyle, backstroke, and everything else. She looked at him, still scared, drowning, and he calmed her down effectively. In the middle of the water, Miss G was genuinely afraid of sinking in the pool and clung to his waist so tightly that he couldn't even move properly. Next came the swimming lesson, as Lin Yi gently introduced her to the art of floating on her own. When she finally grasped the concept, one wrong move caused her to panic and lose her balance. Panic and lose balance. The center of the pool was quite deep, and Lin Yi had to dive in to rescue the drowning woman. He brought her to the surface, their lips meeting in the process. They were found. With him by her side, the water no longer seemed so terrifying. Caught in the moment, Lin made his move, and President Ji Luo responded passionately, but reminded him to be gentle. Now it was time to return the favor to Lin. All he had to do was appear sweet and affectionate in front of the envious witches living in the modest residential complex where Lin rented. Gentle. That day, the water in the mineral pool had been exposed to some strange and sticky substances. After the swimming session, Lin Yi asked for permission to use Ji Luo's phone. President Ji agreed immediately, even giving him the password. Who would have thought that Lin Wei would appear once again to reward him with 100,000 proficiency points? Competition. Reaching a 75% completion rate and gaining ownership of Wanghan Pier? He must have misheard, right? Wanghan Pier is the second largest pier in the country. Lingyu. He happily stated that from now on, he truly had Wang Sang working under him. Based on his career progress, activating the next profession ahead of schedule wouldn't be too difficult. President Ji finally finished her shower and playfully told Lin that he wasn't very good at teaching swimming. Still, the door to her swimming lessons would always be open for Miss G. Today was also special because they delivered the quilt and pillow he used to sleep with at the orphanage. President G wanted to know more about him and his life growing up as orphan. As far as he could remember, Lin had no parents, but at this point in his life, that fact no longer saddened him. Miss Wanma from the orphanage had taken care of him like a son, and he grew up with many orphan friends. President G and Lin definitely got a little closer tonight, but tomorrow will be a long day because of her grandfather's birthday. They'll need some rest. Lin Yi only needs to take President Ji to the office a few more times, and his mission will be almost accomplished. That night, Lin Yi and President Ji slept in the same room. Bed. He was woken up by a surprise call from Miss Wand Ma, asking him if he had broken up with Ceciliu. Realizing what was happening, he assured Miss Wand Ma that he knew what he was doing. The landlady was furious because Lin was 10 days late with the rent. Her daughter, San Jingjing, was the only one stopping her from causing a scene. Winlin, the landlady, warned her daughter not to. But now that he was single, Miss Wandma wanted to introduce him to a friend's daughter who was his age. He promised to attend the matchmaking meeting at 9 a.m. at the friend's house. Miss Wandma, you can visit her when you have free time. I can't believe Cecilio, the witch, went so far as to contact Miss Wandma. The next day, the first stop is T's house to meet a girl named Sun Benwei. On the third floor, he met Sun's entire family, her mother, her brother, and her aunt. From the beginning, Lin Yi already felt bad vibes. When asked if he worked for a real estate company, he casually confessed that he had recently been laid off. They asked him if he was unemployed, and he responded with sincerity that he was a taxi driver. Sun's mother was furious, but the girl wanted to listen to Lin because of his attractive face. Sun works at a bank, so her mother wants her future husband to buy a 100 square meters house in Seoul. Sun believes this is non-negotiable. Lin Yi was amused by the family's delusions and asked if there were any other requirements. The mother demanded 888,000 as a bride price, since it's considered a lucky number. Lin has become very wealthy, but upon hearing such brazen demands, he nearly spat out his tea. Essentially, she was selling her daughter. The brother then intervened and demanded an imported car costing upwards of 880,000. Lin slammed his hand on the table and refused to give in to their exorbitant requests. The mother believed that her demands were reasonable, arguing that relying on family would be worth it. At this, Lin Yi brought up his deceased parents and questioned whether he should depend on their corpses instead. The brother thought it appropriate to add that the orphanage would soon be demolished, and when the land was sold, Lin Yi would receive a substantial amount of money. Lin Yi then threw hot tea on the. It would not do for her to entertain any ideas about that loser salesman, since she was destined to be a successful public official in the future. When Lin Ji passed by the landlady's place, he informed her Sun family, revealing that their goal of profiting from the orphanage had been exposed. In a grave tone, he warned them against deceiving Miss Wanma. While the Sun family was amidst the chaos, Lin exited the tea house. Annoyed, the brother grabbed a potted plant and brandished it at Lin Yi as he headed towards his car. The clumsy brother then threw the plant, narrowly missing Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked up to see the brother threatening him. He questioned the reckless youth about the potential consequences of his actions. The plant hadn't hit Lin Yi, but it did leave a scratch on his expensive car. The Sun family would be responsible for covering the repair costs. The entire family rushed down to the parking lot. The estimated cost for repainting the car was around 300,000. He stated that he would accept any method of payment. Juan then intervened, softening her tone, with dollar signs practically gleaming in her eyes. She apologized for her brother's impulsive actions and expressed her desire to continue their relationship regardless of the situation. Lin dismissed the idea and threatened to sue the family if he didn't receive 300,000 immediately. After that incident, Son's mother blamed her daughter for missing the opportunity to win the heart of such a wealthy man. Her brother then passed the blame to her, saying that it was all her fault. In the course of their discussion, Lin Yi had already arrived at his new business, Huanghai Pier. He didn't expect to find such a large crowd of people and luxury cars parked in the area. A dirty old man named Mr. Miao was comforting a young woman who had just broken the seat of her boat. This was Mr. Miao, the manager of the dock operations department. He explained that the leather seat was expensive, but she said she would gladly pay for the damage with her body. Lin Yi interrupted their lewd encounter, demanding payment for the damage to the boat. After, politely, that he would be moving out. She abruptly reminded him of his outstanding debt. He assured her that he would pay it immediately. His bill was only about 300, but he sent her double that. He was now the owner of those things. Both the young woman and the dirty old man told him to get lost. Lin Yi took note of the old man and decided that Mr. Miao would pay for this in some way. Lin Yi entered the office building and requested to see manager Sonian. He was escorted to the conference room and was greeted by Mr. Sonian, along with the dock executives. The only one absent, it was the operations manager, Old Miao. Lin Yi sat down and declared that the meeting would not begin until the old man showed up. 5 minutes later, Miao entered the room looking disheveled and with a fake smile. He glanced at the head of the table and immediately realized that Lin Yi was the new president. Mr. Miao knelt down and begged for another chance, but Lin Yi had only waited for the old man to arrive so the security guards could expel him. Disrespecting the new president on his first day isn't a good career move for anyone. Lin then addressed the room full of executives, stating his intention to improve the entire dock. He said it was up to all of them to propose a plan. They may be the second largest dock in the country, but Lin Yi wasn't impressed. He doesn't like being in second place. He wants to make Huanhian the largest and most prominent dock in the world, and he would gladly raise the money necessary for the improvements. The floor staff will receive a 20% raise in their salary, and all executives will receive 10%. That promise was enough to motivate the executives. After the meeting, he checked his inbox and saw that the painting he bought for 80 million had just arrived. Furthermore, the watch he ordered 3 days ago is now ready to be picked up, but he will have to pick up the painting and attend a birthday party, so it's not a good time to go get the watch. To make matters worse, the item is so valuable that Lin will have to sign for it himself, so he decided to send the limited edition 175th anniversary watch. Someone else. She doesn't even bother to deny her infidelity, stating that she won't waste her youth on a loser. With no girlfriend and no job, what could possibly stop him from doing something crazy? Insisting that the extra was an apology for all the times he had been late with his payments. When she asked him about his new plans, he answered honestly that he would work to the party at the East Lake Villa. Surely, that won't cause any problems, right? Lin arrived at Donggu Villa and met Qing, she was dressed in a revealing manner. Then, the two of them entered the villa for the celebration, where the others complimented Qin's beauty and wondered who her companion was. Qin apologized to Grandpa Yang Ji for arriving late, and he responded politely by asking her to introduce him to her boyfriend. Qin explained that Lin was the driver and falsely claimed that he owned a sports car. Yang Ji assured everyone that Lin was trustworthy and experienced, even though Tian's friends remained doubtful of her. Tian introduced her boyfriend, Jun, who worked at the same company as Lin. Jun mentioned the company's new luxury car and promised to investigate it further. The grandfather became enraged and demanded that Qin make Lin leave. Suddenly, a car arrived, and 2 people handed Lin a limited edition watch valued at 3 million. Everyone was shocked by its value. The grandfather then asked Tian to apologize to Lin. Another girl criticized. Lin criticized Qin for not siding with him and stated that he should have gifted the watch to Grandpa instead of keeping it. Tianyin agreed and revealed that Yun had been courting that girl for a month. Jun presented his own gift, a set of ancient bronze coins from the Inuadas dynasty, valued at approximately $300,000. Tianxin and the other girl criticized Qin, pointing out that, despite her boyfriend's wealth, she hadn't spent anything on the gift. Qin then presented his gift to grandfather, who praised its quality. Tianxin commented that it seemed like a simple item, but Grandpa responded that what was important was the thought behind it, not the price. Lin told Qin that there was no need to lie, since he himself had prepared the gift. As a car driver, the landlady didn't appreciate that answer and escorted him out with a disapproving look. Once outside, the luxurious Pagani parked at the entrance caught for Grandpa. Qin asked him how he could say such a thing. Lin explained that he had already prepared a gift and presented it to Grandfather, saying that it would be impolite to arrive empty-handed. Empty. The gift was a rare work of art, the peach blossom forest, valued at $30 million, leaving everyone in astonishment. Tian questioned its authenticity, and his grandfather explained the history behind the painting. Jun claimed that the original owner had turned down a $33 million offer, leading him to believe that Lin's painting had to be a fake. Who would blame Lin for the supposedly fake painting? However, Qin was confident that he wouldn't do something like that. Jun tore the painting, claiming he had seen it before at Chang's house and that, according to the rules, they were obligated to destroy it if it was forgery. Qin, enraged, was calmed down by Lin, who immediately fired Jun from Company D. Jun questioned Lin's authority to expel him, and Lin revealed that he owned 20% of the company's shares. Qin didn't believe him and told Lin to stop interfering with Yun. Lin then asked Yun to call Chan to confirm the information. Yun agreed and proceeded to put the call on speakerphone so everyone could hear. When Chang answered, Yun asked if he knew Lin, and Chang confirmed, ordering him to respect Lin, or he would be fired. In addition, he clarified that Lin owned 21% of the company's shares. Jun, surprised, admitted that he had heard Lin owned 20%, and Chang explained that Lin had obtained the additional 1% from rare painting being changed. Stunned, Jun heard again that he was fired. Channing asked them not to ruin the atmosphere of Grandpa's birthday party. Another girl asked Lin to forgive him for Qing's sake, but Lin replied that he would do whatever Qing asked of him, although he would not allow anyone to speak to him like that. The grandfather, shocked while holding the broken painting, his attention. Lin Yi opened the vehicle and kindly asked Jin Jin to help him put his belongings in the car. The landlady asked him where he got the money to buy that beast, and he ordered Jun to pay for the damages. Jun apologized, but Lin warned that he would call the police. Desperate, Yun asked Tian'an for help, but she, angry, broke up with him and refused to help him. He begged him not to leave, but Lin told him to get up, saying that Tian'an wasn't worth it. Then, Lin requested to speak with Mr. G alone, who agreed and ordered the others to withdraw. Gathered. With Lin, he revealed that he wanted to talk about Tian. He asked her if she had driven her car to the peninsula the day before. She admitted it and explained her reasons, asking if there was a problem. Lin said no, but commented that she had brought some strange toys and had met with 2 foreign men. She was stunned to hear this. Lin added that he had several videos that he would later send to Qing, and that if Tian had done it in private, there would be no evidence, but it seemed she had done it in public. He showed the video to his grandfather, and Tian, desperate, begged for forgiveness. Grandpa ignored her and slapped her. Tian's mother tried to intervene, but Mr. G pointed out that if Lin made the video public, the family would be disgraced. Lin said it wasn't appropriate to stay any longer, so he decided to leave. Lin and Qing left the villa together. She thanked him, mentioning the expensive gift, and he replied that it was. It was a shame that they had broken it, but she couldn't stand idly by while they humiliated her. After that, Lin thought about grabbing something to eat after finishing his DD car service shift. From the DD company, he received an order from Yuan. Joan was there when Sue arrived, and he offered her a ride in his BMW, but she refused, saying she was waiting for a taxi. Then Lin arrived in his supercar and asked if she had ordered a taxi, telling her that he was there to pick her up. Sue was surprised to see him, and Joan asked Lin not to follow her. Lin and Sue left, and Joan told her the fabricated story of his wealthy family. Jinjin noticed how her mother's tone changed when she saw how rich Lin Yi appeared to be. The landlady pinched her daughter, insisting that, praised Lin's car. When he dropped her off at her destination, she blushed and asked for his number, also asking if he believed in love at first sight. Lin told her not to say that to anyone else, was saying goodbye when W called him to ask him to take her to the office the next day. Lin jokingly asked if she wanted to return the money she had received, and she replied that she might joke like that because he was like family. He then added that he had been tested and that he had passed the test, so they were now in a relationship. Lin then asked him to return his 300,000, saying that he wouldn't leave a single penny behind. Later, the scene changed to Tian's house, where a girl was waiting by the curb and saw Lin arrive in his car. He offered her a ride, Asking if she was going to the Hangai International Circuit, she accepted, saying that there was an event, and that she had the opportunity to participate in it. He offered her some fruit that he had with him. And, upon arriving at the circuit, Lin told her that he wanted to watch the event with her. They also found two people arguing aggressively. The girl asked them what had happened, and then explained to Lin, which was about Ren and Sue, two popular Twitch streamers. He wanted to know more about the situation, and Sue explained that Ren wanted to kick them out of the area. Ren denied it, saying that there was only enough space for one live stream. The girl suggested that the area was large enough for all three of them to stream, but Sue commented that Ren had been influenced by Chin's associates and wanted to get rid of them. Just then, a girl approached and told Ren that they already had the access cards and that Chin was waiting for them. Mockingly, Ren went inside while Sue looked very upset. The girl who was with Lin asked Sue to calm down, since they couldn't do anything while Chin was with Ren. Lin intervened and told them to go. A man like Lin was out of reach for ordinary people like them. Back at the Peninsula Hotel, the staff kindly prepared the presidential suite for the new owner. After dinner, enjoying ahead with the live stream. Ren warned Lin that he would get into trouble, and Chin appeared, but Lin confidently replied to bring it on. The girl asked him to calm down and not provoked, but Lin assured him that he would ensure they could broadcast without any issues. Sui inquired about Lin's background with Sin, who responded that she didn't know but trusted that he would know how to handle the situation, so Sui decided to follow Lin's lead. Ren commented that it would be embarrassing if they got kicked out. They entered and saw many luxury cars preparing for a live broadcast. Sui asked if Lin was certain he could proceed, and he replied affirmatively, promising to take care of everything. Then Shinji, Chin, and Ren arrived. Ren told Chin and Shinji that this was supposed to be his exclusive broadcast, but the other two had intruded, pointing at Lin and calling him arrogant. Joe greeted Lin, and Chin asked him how he was doing. Ren, surprised, asked if they knew that arrogant guy. Sen revealed that Lin was the owner of the Hangai International Circuit. Ren was stunned upon hearing this. Lin asked Chin if he knew Ren, who had been rude to him. Chin responded that he had just expelled her. Ren pleaded with them not to, saying that his career would be over if he couldn't broadcast. Chin admitted that Lin hadn't. He had reported her in time, and ordered the guards to take her out. Chen asked if the girl was with Lin, and suggested introducing him to some foreign women. Lin denied it, and placing his hand on a black car, he commented that Chin was a better candidate for those girls. San wondered who Lin thought he was to dare mock Chin. Chen explained that this car was the new model, and proposed a race with him. Lin accepted, pointing out that his skills had also improved. They both got into a car, and San and Jin broadcast the event live. Chen had the blue car, the hotel's exquisite 5-star cuisine, cooked by top chefs. Lin Yi felt completely satisfied. A few minutes later, he received a ride request from the president, and proposed making a bet to make it more exciting. He explained the rules and the prize for the winner, which Lin agreed to. The race started, and Lin finished first. Chin admitted that, despite training hard for several days, Lin had won. He then handed over 330,000 won as the bet amount. Lin gave the money to Joe, and asked him to fix the scratch on the car. Joe agreed, and took the money. Lin told San and Sinu that if they needed anything, they could contact him. Chin approached Lin, put a friendly hand on his shoulder, and asked if he had fun being a DD driver with Sinu. Lin responded that he would be happy if Chin ever joined, but Chin declined, and began to explain why. Lin interrupted him, and it left. Lin realized that he only had 3 more orders left before he could go to dinner. On the way, he ran into Miss Lei. She commented that she was closing up shop early, saying that she had been wanting to eat fried rice for a long time. She replied that Jin would be arriving soon and that Lei would reopen after picking her up. Lin placed his order, asking for ham to be added, and the miss accepted it. Then, Lin went to the school to find Jing. At school, he asked a girl if all the graduating seniors had already left, and she confirmed that they had. As he looked around them, Lin noticed several women and recognized one with green hair. That woman insisted that Miss cover up the scratches on her son's face, which she claimed had been caused by Jing, and threatened legal action if her son's future was negatively affected. Through tears, Jing explained that the boy had harassed her first. Lin arrived in the middle of the commotion and asked if they were daydreaming. He comforted Jing and asked her to explain what happened, pointing out the tear in her shirt caused by the boy. Jing recounted the events, and Lin, from the Chaoan group, the first thing he did upon picking her up was ask her to send the app requests, since Linji was on duty. The president was pleased to see that he was such a dedicated worker, intervened, asking the woman not to make such a scene. She became even more rude, demanding compensation and threatening to use her husband's influence in Honggan, the capital city, to sue them. Miss Go calmly explained that her son was the culprit, which only further enraged the woman, who then threatened to make the entire school suffer the consequences. Miss Go decided to take Jing home and promised to explain everything to the director later. Just then, the boy's father arrived, demanding to know what had happened. The boy accused Lin of slapping his mother, and the man screamed, demanding that Lin kneel and apologize, claiming that Qin was his boss and could have him expelled from the city. Lin mocked him and called Qin to explain the situation. Qin understood and clarified everything immediately. The man laughed, thinking it was a joke, until he received a call from Qin ordering him to leave Hengai capital immediately. Stunned and begging for mercy, the man was dismissed by Qin without hesitation, leaving his family in shock and despair. They begged Lin for another chance, but he dismissed them, saying they were lucky, that he wished he had been there that day to prevent Liu and Hin from being humiliated. Lin told him to leave and learn to be a better person. Afterwards, Lin and Jin returned home. Hin started to. She began to tell Lin what happened, but Lin stopped her and suggested that it remain a secret between them. That night, Lin arrived at the Changi group building and thought about the girl who was still working. He quietly approached the CEO's office, where she was, and wondered if she wasn't afraid of anything. Lin moved a chair, making a noise, and the girl was startled, wondering who was there. She went out to check, but didn't see anyone, so she returned inside. Suddenly, she called Lin on the phone, asking him to come pick her up. He refused, saying that Lin had been the company's top sales performer, and despite being fired, he was still taking his new career seriously, so she planned to investigate the reasons for his dismissal. He was busy with work, she insisted, begging him to stop working and come, since there was a bad guy at the company who was scaring her. Lin told her to wait a moment. Then someone knocked on the door. The girl, frightened, started crying and asked who it was, saying that her boyfriend was about to arrive, so there was no need to try and scare her. The boy responded that since her boyfriend was about to arrive, he would leave. She recognized the voice, and when she opened the door, she saw that it was Lin. She hugged him tightly, explaining that a guy had been scaring her and asked how he had gotten there so fast. Lin replied that he was the scary boy she had asked about, wondering if he had really been doing all that. Lin explained that he just wanted her to understand the dangers of working alone and insisted that she leave earlier from now on. She asked him not to scare her like that again, admitting that she had been very frightened. Then, she noticed a package he was carrying. Lin explained that it was egg-fried rice from a stall he used to visit often in recent years, and that I had brought it for her to try. She opened it, took in the aroma, and asked if Lin had made it. She commented that she had also tried Lu's fried rice and found it delicious. In a playful manner, she punished him by making him feed her, to which Lin agreed, saying that no one would believe he would do something like that. He fed her and commented that it was already late, offering to take her home. She thought very highly of him. Because of this, Qin called Lin and mentioned that he had a list of internet celebrity girls, asking him if he wanted to unwind for a bit. Lin responded that the girl next to him was better than any internet celebrity. Qin asked for a photo of her, and Lin obliged, asking her for a selfie. She wondered. Lin suddenly appeared inside the car and assured Lin Yi that only he could see her. She just wanted to intervene and inform him that the system had rated the president with a beauty score of 85 or higher, which triggered a system mission to pick up 2 beauties with a score of 85 or higher in order to earn 10,000 competition points. Why he suddenly wanted a photo. Lin explained that he was going to send it to someone to show them the difference between what's real and what's fake. She asked if she should put on makeup and get ready. But he complimented her, saying she looked good even without makeup, and then took the selfie. She moved away slightly, feeling uncomfortable, but Lin reassured her that she shouldn't feel strange. She explained that she had never taken a selfie with a man before and wondered what pose she should strike. Lin suggested she sit on his lap for the photo. After taking the picture, Lin sent it to Qin, who asked him where he had found her. After leaving the office, Lin told her not to worry about dinner, as he would drop it off at her house. She responded that she still wanted to support his unusual way of experiencing life. Lin wondered if he should do something special, and she jokingly asked if he needed to summon his prey. They both got into their cars, and Lin asked her what steps he should take to create a charitable foundation. She explained that even powerful people found it difficult to run non-profit organizations, which could make solving that problem complicated for him. While they were talking, Lin dropped her off at her house. He mentioned that he would be going to the city the next day, and invited her to come along if She replied that she would see if she could make it, and then left. Lin felt like he had completed his challenge. At that moment, a girl appeared, telling Lin that it was time to embark on his next professional journey. She asked him if he wanted to activate the upgrade, and upon his acceptance, she explained that he would become a university professor, receiving a series of rewards and $750 million. Lin commented that it sounded like an easy task. She added that after taking the potion, even mastering advanced mathematics would be a piece of cake for him. However, finding beauties at President G's level was going to be a difficult task. Thanks to the effects of attribute reinforcement, he noticed changes in his physique, feeling an increase in his strength. Excited, he discovered that he now had a six-pack. After this, revelation. He lay back on his bed, reflecting on completing his first professional mission. Shortly after, Lin received a call informing him that the Pagani engineers had already been contacted. Lin agreed and instructed his butler to send the car. The girl he had driven home explained that she wouldn't be able to accompany him due to an unexpected job. Undeterred, Lin arrived at the airport the next day and discovered that she had gifted him a first-class ticket. He settled comfortably into his seat on the plane. Owen also boarded the flight and noticed Lin. Sin made a comment about him, while Joan mentioned it was the first time she'd seen such a young boss in first class. Owen, in a playful tone, asked them to stop talking and assured them that everyone would find someone equally impressive. Lin told Owen to keep up appearances for himself and not involve him. Owen then proposed a competition, asking the flight attendant for her contact number to see if she would give it to him. He called the flight attendant, explained the competition, and asked her to choose who to give her number to. Although in the end, initially hesitant, the flight attendant gave in when she saw the very rare, limited edition watch that Lin was wearing. Ao was surprised by her decision, and Shin mocked him for losing. Frustrated, Ao realized that the flight attendant was new to the game. Then, Shin mentioned that a young woman was approaching Lin and challenged Ao to compete for her contact information. Ao accepted, and when the girl arrived, she mentioned that she had the window seat. Ao asked for her number right away, but Lin jokingly pulled her into his lap, saying that he had the power to make her fall in love with him instantly. Ao joked. At that moment, an incredible woman appears and welcomes him to the professional experience system, offering all types of careers. Her name is Lingwei, and she tells him that she will act as his assistant. For some reason, she felt comfortable talking about her problems with Lin Yi. Her company was about to organize telling the girl to call the police, claiming that they would be the witnesses. She asked Lin to stop embarrassing her in public. Lin responded that the atmosphere on the plane, he was feeling very stuffy and wanted some fresh air. Noticing his embarrassment in front of so many people, the girl insisted that he stop. Lin then turned to Ao, asking if he still wanted to continue with the competition. Ao was stunned by Lin's audacity. Lin asked Ching if she wasn't busy with company work, but she denied it. While the other man seemed upset, Hin wanted to get Lin's contact information, but the boy refused, saying Lin wasn't a good guy because he had touched Jin inappropriately. Lin responded that they would be getting married soon because they were a couple. Hin asked him not to take advantage of her and said that she needed to go to the bathroom. He replied that he would be more delicate next time. Afterwards, they both arrived at the Blue Sky Wellness Institute. Hin commented that the orphanage property would be worth at least a few million. Lin said that the owner of the orphanage was a very rich woman, but she had chosen to take care of the children and wasn't even wearing luxurious clothes. They met the children and gave them sweets and gifts. Wang asked Lin why he hadn't told her he was coming so she could prepare his favorite meal. He responded that he wanted to surprise her. Wang asked if the surprise was the girlfriend he had brought to meet her. When Jing introduced herself, Wang asked him not to bring anything next time. Wang asked a man to take the children inside while she accompanied Lin and Jing. When the man came out, he saw Nin arrive with her boyfriend. Wang was very happy that both Lin and Nin had come with their partners on the same day. Lin told Jing that Nin had also grown up in the orphanage, but when they went to university, he went to Hengai, and she went to press conference, but all the 5-star hotels in the city were completely booked. Seeing a business opportunity, Lin Yi suggested holding the conference at the city of Chang. Then she asked Jing to go and greet her. Nin arrived with her boyfriend in a car and told the children that she had brought many gifts for them. Some boys touched the car, and when Nin's boyfriend saw them, he got angry, thinking they would make him dirty, and he would have to be washed. Nin then met up with Lin and his girlfriend, asking them to introduce themselves. Jin introduced himself, mentioning that Lin had already told him about Nin. Nin commented that Lin was lovely for having such a good friend. Nin's boyfriend introduced himself as Tao, and as he was about to shake hands with Jin, Lin intervened. pushing his hand back and asking him to be more respectful. Tao got angry at that attitude. Then, Tao said that he would donate 100,000 to the orphanage, but one rejected the offer, saying that they had already done enough. Lin asked him to accept the donation as a symbolic gesture. Tao told Lin that he should donate something too. Lin agreed and said he would donate 100 millions. Hearing that, Tao was shocked and accused him of lying. One told Lin that it must be difficult for him and suggested they go to lunch. Tao bet that if a taxi driver could donate so much money, he would donate 10 times that amount. Lin made a call, provided an account number, and ordered 100 million to be transferred to that account. Just as Wang checked his account, he saw that he actually had received that amount. Tao took out his phone to check and confirmed that it was true. Lin asked him when he would make his donation, as they had agreed. Tao, embarrassed, pretended to have work to do and hurried away. Nin asked him to wait, but Tao didn't stop. Lin told him that Tao was not a good person. Miss Wang asked Lin how he had acquired so much money. He responded that he had started a small business and had made a profit from it. And Jing added that Lin had also invested in some projects in Hangai. Wang commented that it was no small peninsula hotel. She didn't mind spending more money, but she figured a hotel of that caliber was likely fully booked too. Lin Yi tried to play it mysterious, encouraging her amount, and earning so much money took a lot of time, so she planned to return the donation to him. Lin replied that he already had enough money to live comfortably and urged her to keep it. He then suggested they go to lunch. During lunch, Hin asked Lin what her plans were. She said she was going to check the physical branch in City Y because she suspected there was something strange with the accounts and asked him to accompany her. Lin replied that everything was well prepared, but Jin assured him that he wouldn't tell anyone. Lin told Bond that they had work to do and that they needed to leave. Suddenly, Jin's dress tore, so she went to change. While she was changing, she asked Lin to help her with the zipper because it had gotten stuck. He asked her if she couldn't just wear the dress without zipping it, to which she responded by asking why he was complaining so much and if he didn't like helping her. He joked as he tried to help, but the zipper got stuck again, so he went to get some scissors. She commented that she didn't have anything else to wear. Lin explained why the zipper had gotten stuck, took the scissors, and fixed it. She felt a little uncomfortable with the situation. Afterward, they both went to the Chaoyan branch in Yang City. Upon arriving at the conference room, the employees were surprised, and they asked Jin why he hadn't announced his visit. She told Bond that there was no need and requested that the year's financial statements be sent to the room. Once she received them, she reviewed the accounts and inquired about Wang WM's whereabouts. She discovered that the branch had a discrepancy of over $30 million and noticed other issues in the records. She warned them that she would call the police. At that moment, some men entered, stating they had come to collect $1 million debt that Wang owed them. Jin was surprised to hear that. One of the to give it a shot, hinting that they might be surprised by the outcome. So, instead of heading home, they changed course for the Peninsula Hotel. She jokingly said that if they couldn't get a reservation, men said that if she went with him that night, he would waive the debt. Lin intervened, saying he believed Yoon had ordered them to prevent Lin and Jin from calling the police, and that Yoon hadn't told them everything. I didn't owe them anything. The man became angry upon hearing this, but Lin offered them $2 million if they helped take June to the police station. The three men were surprised and agreed to the offer. They quickly left to capture June and take him to the police station. Lin asked Hin to take the financial statements while he accompanied them to the station. When they arrived, Lin told her not to let the news leak, as it could negatively affect the value of the Chiang group. She thanked him, saying that if he hadn't been there, she would have been in serious trouble. Issues. He asked her to enter the police station alone, explaining that he would go after Yun. She begged him not to put himself in danger, but he handed her the documents and told her to go with the police. Otherwise, if he delayed, the losses could increase. 3 hours later, Lin returned with June. When Hin saw him, she was relieved and asked if he was injured. He refused and told her to leave the rest to the police. June was arrested and begged Jin for forgiveness, promising to return everything. Furious, she did not forgive him. Then, he took Lin's hand, and he asked them to return to Hangai, and he accepted. The scene then shifted to Yunuvia, where they both arrived by taxi. Jin offered to cook for him, and Lin was surprised to learn that she knew how to cook well. She finally prepared dinner, and when Lin tasted it, he commented on how delicious it was. He then asked her if she had been dealing with June's situation on the phone earlier. She nodded, saying that, as CEO, it was her responsibility to oversee everything. After dinner, Lin mentioned that he hadn't expected her to be such a good cook, and that he wanted to give her a proper reward. He would have to pay the fine for the illegal U-turn Lin had just made, but if they managed to secure a booking, she would be willing to reward him. When he was asked what reward he desired, he requested that she refused, saying that he had already helped her too much. He asked her to close her eyes, and then kissed her. She asked if that was the reward, and he answered no. It didn't matter to her, though she smiled happily. They enjoyed a fun night together. The next morning, Lin woke up to find Jin had already left for the office. Lin then received a call from the Human Resources Department of Hangai Normal University and accepted their offer to start working there as a professor the following day, expressing his gratitude for the opportunity. The next day, Lin arrived at Hangai Normal University, dressed smartly and reminiscing about his youth. He received a call from Ching, who asked him to pick her up, but he refused, explaining that it was his first day as a professor. She was surprised and asked how that was possible. Lin revealed that he would be the new physical education teacher, and that she hadn't needed to insist he find work. One student commented that if such a young teacher taught them, they would pay full attention in class. Lin went to the office and announced he was there to start work. A teacher identified him as Shen Bang, and a woman, such a young teacher taught them, he would give his full attention. Lin went to the office, stating that he was there to begin working. A teacher identified him as Shen Bang, and a woman, Shug, the dean of students, told Lin that he needed to work hard and gave him a task to help hotel management graduates find internships with a salary of no less than 3, in addition to accommodation and other basic benefits. Although Lin thought he would be a physical education teacher, the dean insisted that he take on that responsibility, and he accepted. Sheng showed Lin to his desk, while the others argued about how Sud detested those who used the back door. Shin Pan suggested that Lin approach the level 3 restaurants. Lin agreed and then contacted Ed, someone who could come to his location. Half an hour later, a man arrived, and Lin explained the entire situation to him. Then he do 10 deep squats. He even suggested that she start looking up the proper form for deep squats on her phone. The president's team had been accompanied him to where Sud was, who became angry upon seeing that a stranger had gone there. Lin explained that he had done it for the students' internships. Surprised, Sud stood up. Immediate. The man was actually the manager of a large hotel and agreed to offer the students internships. Tianan even offered $500 more than SG had requested. The woman who had assigned the task to Lin informed him that he had earned 200,000 and completed 20% of his experience points. Shen asked him what he was thinking and praised him for finishing the assignment so quickly. Noon. Tianan left, and Lin asked Su to schedule his classes before he left. Su instructed Shen Bang to organize a kinesiology class for Lin, noting that the attendance was less than 30%, which meant that if it continued like that, Lin would only receive half of his salary. Su commented that, since Lin was the physical education teacher, that was the most appropriate subject for him to teach. Later, Lin was walking along Huanhan Pier when a car passed so closely that the woman inside yelled at him not to touch her car. He responded that he was just crossing the street. Chen got out of the car with an arrogant attitude, showing off his Audi A8. Lin asked him not to brag, pointing out that it was just an Audi A8. Then, the woman entered the office conference room. At the office conference, a man commented on her tardiness and Lin's absence. She explained that she had been delayed in the parking lot because of a man. Chen noticed Wan, and he asked if she wasn't ashamed of losing to her again. Chen wondered how a foreigner could know the area better than a local person. Finally, Lin entered the room, and Chen realized that he was the man from the parking lot. Lin asked a man if that woman worked at the company, and he replied that she was a famous designer there. Lin sat down and, rejected by the Peninsula Hotel when they tried contacting their offices, there was nothing to lose by trying. Thus, the president and the driver struck a deal, and Lin introduced himself, said he didn't want her working there. She apologized, asking for another chance, but he refused, stating that he didn't want people like that around him. They both left the room. Lin asked Wan to begin. To explain, she detailed everything precisely, and Lin asked her what she would do with $30 million if he were to provide it. She responded that she would turn her company into one of the 5 most important in the world. Lin offered her $120 million if she could make her industry lead the sector for more than 10 years. The others were shocked, but Wan accepted. Lin stated that he would give him $30 million as an advance, and then he left. Then he received a call from Fuyu, the director of the Longshin Institute, who wanted to meet with him. They agreed to meet the next day at 1 p.m. The next day, Lin arrived at the school office and greeted everyone. Suga asked him to get ready for class, but he already was. She explained the attendance system and how it affected his salary. Lin replied that he didn't need the salary, so there was no need for him to teach, but Suga insisted that he should do it anyway. He agreed, and asked where the classroom was located. Shinpan told him it was on the 3rd floor. Lin headed to the classroom and was greeted by 2 girls who asked if he was their new teacher. Noticing he was carrying a textbook, Lin explained the subject he was going to teach, and the girls offered to help him find the classroom, but he assured them that he knew the way. They sent a message to the student chat, informing everyone about the new class. Lin arrived alongside Sugi Shengbang and found that there were already 30 students present. Then, they heard Boruto outside. More students entered the room. Shinvan joked that the girls were attracted to Lin because of his appearance. Su recognized him, but asked why there were boys there as well. Shinvan responded. He approached the receptionist and asked to speak with the manager, Wan Hianlong. The receptionist thought her boss must be pretending to be a poor boy in front of a pretty girl again. Manager Hang then received, in a mocking tone, saying that the boys were obviously there for the girls. When the bell rang, the classroom was completely packed. Shinvan commented that there was no need to count and, annoyed, wanted to see how Lin would manage the class. Lin asked the students to come forward to register their attendance. An hour later, there were still students waiting for their turn to be marked. His boss urged him to begin, but the girls complained that they had not yet been marked as present. Seeing the confusion, Su told Lin to proceed as he saw fit. Just as Lin was about to start, a girl informed him that the day list had not been completed. Lin called roll again, but the bell rang, signaling the end of class. He told the students that they would begin properly from the next day. Shinvan commented that it was the first time he had seen such an unbelievable class. Lin asked if the attendance process had met Su's expectations. When she nodded, he said he was finished for the day and prepared to leave. Shin joked that Lin was like a heartthrob who attracted all the girls. At that moment, the woman who had assigned him the task appeared, congratulating him on his first day. She mentioned that his experience had risen to 40% and that he would be rewarded with the master's memory. Lin asked what the difference was between the master's memory and the sage's memory. She explained the difference to him and asked him to choose. Lin asked if she knew who was the best in the field of chips. She confirmed that it was Jack, the father of chips. Lin chose Jack. After receiving the master's memory, Lin declared his intention to achieve a breakthrough in the field of chips. The scene then changed to Longshan High School, specifically to the principal's office. Jin informed Fuyu that a man had visited the institute. Fuyu confirmed it and mentioned that there was a meeting scheduled for 1 p.m. Moon expressed concern that his arrival would interfere with her critical research, but Fuyu reassured her. He politely addressed the president, and she quickly got to the point, asking if the hotel auditorium was available. She believed the answer would be negative, but the big boss reassured her, suggesting that the man might be trustworthy. Chu questioned how a stranger could guide them. The wealthy man was Lin. Upon meeting him, Fuyu greeted him, saying that they were waiting, and showed him around the facilities. Lin commented that the equipment was outdated. Fuyu explained that it was very expensive, and they didn't have the budget to renovate it. She asked him for advice, and Lin responded that he had a lot to recommend and suggested she follow his guidelines. Fuyu accepted. Then Chu intervened, saying that he had something to say to Lin. He directly warned him not to interfere with the direction of their research and to let them work as they saw fit. Lin asked him about his credentials. When Chu responded, Lin commented that he seemed to have just finished kindergarten. Chu recognized Lin's wealth and power but asserted his own dignity, refusing to accept insults. Lin replied that, since he had acquired the institute, Chu was to follow his orders and let him do whatever he wanted. Fuyu asked Lin to apologize to Chu, but he responded by showing his project and warning about the consequences if I dismissed him. Lin asked him if he thought the world revolved around him. Fuyu explained the project, and Lin questioned if it was truly challenging. Then, Lin took over and spoke about her own qualifications. Just as Fuyu had requested, she agreed to let him oversee the work. Chu complimented Lin on her programming knowledge, which wasn't even her area of expertise. Everyone was taken aback when Lin effortlessly modified the code. Lin assured them that by fixing the bugs, she would prevent future issues. She finished the programming, and Chu asked if she wanted to review it again. Lin said she was satisfied, and when Fuyu saw it, she exclaimed that it was perfect and that they knew what to do next. Lin mentioned that she had resolved all the problems that Cho, literally managing everything from behind the scenes. The conference would be in 10 days, and Manager Wang could make the necessary arrangements. Amidst the euphoria of securing such an unexpected deal, was facing, and asked Fuyu to compile a list of the equipment that needed replacing. Fuyu, astonished, calculated that it would cost approximately $5 million. Lin agreed. Provide the funds and ordered a complete equipment replacement, also granting each employee a bonus of 80,000. Fuyu expressed her gratitude for everything. Jin then apologized to Lin and started to ask him personal questions, exchanged contact information, and encouraged him to reach out whenever he wanted. Lin announced his departure and told Fuyu to call him if she needed anything. Fuyu escorted him outside, where they encountered President Qi and his assistant, Gan. Fuyu explained that she initially thought Qi had come to request the use of the laboratory, but since it had already been purchased, she was no longer in a position to make decisions regarding it. She then introduced Lin as the new owner and suggested that Qi discuss laboratory matters directly with him. Qi offered money for its use, but Lin declined the offer, explaining that the replacements were necessary because the existing equipment was inadequate for development purposes of chips, although it was indeed suitable for academic research. Gan mentioned that he had previously met Lin in the Human Resources Department. Chili then inquired as to why had decided to become a professor, and Lin responded that he was doing it to gain experience, also requesting that they not discuss it with anyone else. Afterwards, he departed. The next day, while Lin was in the staff room, Gay entered in a furious state. Shinban informed him that SK was not present. Gay explained that he had gone to find Lin and mentioned that Lin had caused problems for Sug the previous day. Shinban advised him not to argue, considering Lin was under the vice president's orders. Suk arrived and inquired as to what had transpired. Gay reassured her, saying that this system will assign him a new job every week, and he will earn rewards for completing tasks. After a historic streak of misfortunes, he finally has a stroke of. So, unexpectedly, Lin Yi mentioned fulfilling their deal. Doing deep squats in front of him might be a little embarrassing, but as a businesswoman, she couldn't go back on her word, would take care of her problem. She was shocked to hear that Lin was the source of the problem and approached him, asking Gay not to interfere. Gay, bewildered by this, called Lin a bad guy. He left, infuriated. Lin assured Suwook that he would assist her with her tasks. Just then, Suwook received a call from Vice President Dayan, who was summoning Lin to his office. She accepted the call and relayed the message to him. He communicated this, leaving Suwook surprised, who then advised Lin to apologize. When Lin arrived at Dayan's office, Dayan informed him that he was fired. Lin then asked the dean why he was being fired. Dismissed. Qi asked where Lin was and went to the dean's office to find out what was happening. The dean explained that he did not believe Lin was capable of fulfilling the position and asked him to step down, would withdraw. Qi, furious, reproached him, saying that she had just been considering naming Lin as honorary vice president, and she highlighted his role as director of the Long Institute, would withdraw. Qi, furious, reproached him, saying that she had just been considering naming Lin as honorary vice president, highlighting his role as director of the Long Institute. Shen and his vast knowledge. He then declared that both Gay and the dean were incompetent and demanded their immediate resignations. Both were stunned, and the dean begged for a second chance, apologizing repeatedly. Qi assessed the dean's character, pointing out that he had already been given far too many opportunities. A heated argument then erupted between the dean and Gay. Finally, Qi asked Lin to take over as dean, but he declined, stating that he preferred to remain a professor. She then decided to appoint him as deputy director with presidential powers. Afterward, Qi approached Suk, who welcomed her. Qi commented that she would personally handle the matter with the dean and Gay. Gay asked if they were being fired, and words. He approached President Ji and began to unbuckle her seatbelt after she insisted they do the squats at her place. Before long, they arrived at Uni's villa, found out that Lin would be the new deputy director. Another person, completely surprised, asked how it had happened, and Lin calmly replied that it was nothing important. The woman in charge of. After assigning the tasks, he appeared and announced that Lin had acquired the Twin Towers, explaining all the details. Shortly after, Lin received a call confirming his ownership of the towers. He scheduled the formal procedures to be carried out at 9 a.m. the next day. Back at the office, Lin considered creating a company to manage his assets. In an unexpected turn, he ran into Suk, who was only wrapped in a towel. Startled, she asked how he had gotten in. Lin explained that it was also his office. Suk turned around, embarrassed, telling him not to look. Lin couldn't help but admire her figure, thinking it was truly impressive. Later, Lin attended the Chiang Group press conference, where he attracted the attention of many women. Seeing Jin with some girls, he decided not to interrupt and went to grab something to eat. A woman approached him to exchange contact information, but he rejected her offer. politely, causing her to leave in annoyance. Another woman mentioned to Chin that the U company had secured a $150 million contract. Chin confirmed this, and Lin, he asked if that was the company he himself had selected. Wei approached Chin to inquire if she was interested in a reconstruction project. She responded affirmatively, but mentioned that she lacked the necessary connections, making her participation difficult. Wei offered his assistance, explaining that the CEO of U was his cousin. Chin asked him if he wanted to collaborate and invited him to her company to discuss the matter. Wei suggested celebrating the alliance with a dinner, but just as he was about to approach her, Lin intervened, telling him that Chin, President Ji's house. Inside, she shyly asked if he wanted to see the squats immediately, as he might have other commitments. Lin Yi preferred to see them as soon as possible, would not be having dinner with him. Wei asked if Chin had time for Lin, and she confirmed that she did, as she had a date with him. Wei insisted, saying that his dinner was worth hundreds of dollars, but Chin preferred fulfill his commitment to Lin. Lin informed the Chan group that they were not in a position to take on that project and asked Wei to call his cousin to confirm this. Wei dialed Wan's number on speakerphone and asked if he had a suitable candidate for the Wan Hank Pier project. Wan replied that he had been working together with Wei on his projects, but Lin intervened, introducing himself as the owner of Hang Pier. Wei was surprised, and Wan recognized Lin, confirming his authority over the project. Lin then asked Wei if he now understood that he had the power to make the decision. Wei apologized and left. At Lin's request, Jin went to wait for him in the living room. The others were commenting on how great Lin was. When Jin arrived, she found him lying on a sofa. Without saying a word, she sat near Lin. He gently took her hand and guided her to sit on his lap. She then realized that he had been pretending to be asleep. He commented that Lin had also acquired Wangjun Pier and, in addition to handling routine tasks, was investing in other industries. Lin wondered how he could accurately assess the market without disclosing its ownership. He Qing assured him that he would complete Wang Hang's project to perfection, but Lin was hesitant to assign it to him. She suggested that they enjoy the evening together, which led Lin to suggest that he speak directly with Han, the project's designer. The scene shifted to the following day. Lin was outside of his office when Qing approached him, recognizing him after a long time and asking what he did for a living. He mentioned that he was a physical education teacher, and she joked that the job wasn't very lucrative. Qing revealed, President Ji resolutely adopted the stance and performed an impressive deep squat in her short dress, nearly revealing more than intended. She was holding that position when a man that she worked as a low-ranking employee at the Yang Don Group, earning around $30,000 a year. Lin mentioned he was there to buy a house and inquired about the commotion at her company. Qing. He explained that there were rumors about a mysterious businessman who had acquired the Twin Towers and would be completing the formalities that day. Vice President Luaba went to meet with the buyer of the Twin Towers. Ren noticed Qing's presence and asked what she was doing there. She replied that she had run into a former college classmate and introduced Ren as her boyfriend. She also suggested that Lin consider offering Ren a job and even invited him to have lunch with them. Ren refused, saying that he only ate with wealthy people and didn't want to waste his time with Lin. He mentioned that the buyer of the Twin Towers would be arriving any moment. Qing suggested they talk about it later at home. When people began to line up for the ceremony, Lin revealed that he was the buyer of the Twin Towers, although he preferred not to make a flashy entrance. He started walking, leaving Qing and Ren completely surprised after hearing the revelation. Qin commented that Lin had also acquired Wanhan Pierre, engaging in ordinary jobs while simultaneously investing in other industries. She asked him how he would discover the true state of the market if he didn't make it public. Lin responded that she would complete the project perfectly, even though he hadn't actually assigned it to her. She suggested that he enjoy the night, and Lin responded that he would also speak with Juan, the project designer. Vice President Luo arrived, visibly upset, and asked what Qin was doing there. She apologized, saying that Lin was a college classmate who had lost his mind. Luo ordered security to remove her from the building and then slapped Ren, who demanded an explanation. He didn't reveal that. Of middle age entered the room with a stern and bewildered look. What could Lin Yi and President Ji say to explain the situation? It turned out to be President Ji's father. Her father, Lin, was the buyer of the Twin Towers and questioned how they had dared to treat him that way. Ren asked if that was possible, and Qin asked Lin if he really had bought them. Bought it. He confirmed that he had gone to buy his own home and apologized to Lin. He promised to organize a banquet that very night to make up for it. Lin asked Ren if he still wanted to have dinner together. Lu ordered them to leave Ren alone and focus on signing the contract. In the conference room, Lin found a stack of documents that took him almost half an hour to sign. During the signing, the firm did not ask him if he had someone to manage the Twin Towers. Lin asked him for a recommendation, and then mentioned that his brother had a real estate company in the city, offering his services. Lin asked that his brother contact him. Meanwhile, Chin and Ren left with some files. Ren told her that he would look for another job to support her, but she responded that they were not compatible and broke up with him. Ren was shocked, reminding her of his promise to get married. She explained that Lin had written her a love letter back in college and that, now she wanted to be with him. Ren called her unfaithful and stormed off in a fury. Chin stood outside, fixing her makeup, when Lin approached and asked why she hadn't left yet. She said that she was waiting for him and that she had broken up with Ren. Lin responded indifferently, saying he didn't care. Chin then brought up the supposed love letter that Lin had received in the university, assuming it was genuine. Lin revealed that it had actually been written by someone else entirely. Others began to whisper that girls like Chin only wanted to be with rich men, and that they weren't good people. Lin told Chin to go back to work and announced that he was leaving. As he got into his car, she entered without his permission, claiming that she had been fired and had just witnessed her performing a deep squat in front of a young man. To say he was furious would be an understatement. She tried to excuse herself, claiming Lin Yi was her new yoga instructor, but he, asking him to take her home. Lin demanded to know who had allowed her in his car. Chin begged him to give her a ride, reminding him that they had been colleagues. Annoyed, Lin called the police and he described her as a crazy girl who had illegally broken into his car. Hearing that, Chin quickly went downstairs and Lin drove off. The scene then shifted to the music plaza, where a girl on a bicycle was hit by a car. The man got out, furious and yelling about the damage to his new car, asking her why she was there if she didn't know how to take care of herself. She responded that she shouldn't be yelled at and offered to pay for the damages. The man scoffed, implying she couldn't afford it, and condescendingly offered her a job as his secretary, saying that he would deduct the expenses from her salary. Angry, she refused, but he abruptly silenced her by covering her face with a cloth, causing her to lose consciousness. At that moment, Lin arrived in his car, attracting the attention and admiration of those present. Jin recognized him and approached, asking what he was doing there. He simply replied that he was passing through the area. Seeing his reddened hands, he asked what had happened. Wang explained that the man had tried to take advantage of her and recounted everything that occurred. Lin asked the man how a motorcycle could have fallen in on such a hot and windless day. Noticing a security camera nearby, Lin suggested reviewing the footage. After watching the video, the man asked them to forget the incident, offering to repair her car. Lin questioned his haste and threatened to call the police. The man begged for mercy, claiming that he had to support his family. Lin relented and let him go. Jin mentioned that she was feeling dizzy, so Lin offered to drive her home. During the drive, he asked if she still lived in the same apartment. She confirmed, and he then asked why she hadn't bought a car. Especially, the man wasn't stupid. He knew that instructors are there to teach, not to observe. President Ji nervously added that Lin Yi was an advanced yoga instructor specializing in verbal instruction. Now that she had been promoted to sales minister, Jin explained that it wasn't appropriate given her recent promotion and her financial constraints. She apologized for her brother's actions, but he told her that he had already contacted a lawyer. Embarrassed, Jin offered to compensate him, but he asked her to stop and assured her that they would be home soon. Upon arriving, they found the place in a mess. She cleared a space for Lin to sit down, apologizing for the disarray. She invited him to stay and offered to prepare a large dinner after he took a shower. While Lin was playing games, Jin interrupted him from the bathroom, complaining that she felt hot and dizzy. Worried, Lin asked her if she lived alone. Suddenly, she asked him for a kiss. Lin hesitated, fearing she would regret it later, but Jin insisted, saying that she didn't want to overthink things and that she wanted him to feel her. Afterward, Lin asked her about her divorce. She explained that her husband had cheated on her, which led to the separation. Lin criticized the man for betraying such a wonderful wife. Before leaving, Lin advised her to finalize her divorce as soon as possible. Jin responded that driving him all the way home would be exhausting and suggested he stay the night. Lin declined, saying he had to be at the university early the next day. Following this, despite the late hour, he departed. The next morning at the university, Lin was shocked to find that his desk was missing from the faculty room. Ban informed him that he had been promoted to vice director, meaning he would now be sharing an office with him. Lin protested, stating that he didn't want the position and requested his old desk back. Just then, Sue arrived and demanded that he repeat what he had just said. Lin, surprised to see her, pretended it was nothing important. Suddenly, the phone rang. Sue answered it and was informed. The father sat next to Lin Yi, exuding an intimidating aura, and asked him what he did for a living. Lin Yi honestly answered that he was a driver, that someone was threatening to jump from a building due to work-related stress, and she needed to go there immediately. Shocked, Sue asked where Sa was. He explained to Lin that Lu had told him that Sia was deeply affected by work-related issues and was contemplating suicide. Suk asked Lin to come with her, and together with Shane B, they quickly made their way to the location. During the drive, Lin wanted to know what was going on and who the person was that wanted to jump. Suk explained that Sia was a brilliant student who was graduating that year and had rented an apartment for her internship. She didn't know the exact details of the incident. Shin asked where Sia worked, and Suk replied that it was at John and Capel, a company that Lin recognized as being owned by Chin. Upon arriving, there was already a large crowd gathered. Suk crossed the police line, identifying herself as Sia's teacher, and requested to speak with her. The police agreed, and Lin decided to accompany her. They went up to the rooftop, where a woman was already next to Sia, who was desperately crying out for help. Suk asked her what had happened and praised her for her courage, trying to understand the reasons behind her decision. Through tears, Si confessed that someone had done something terrible to her, and even her boyfriend hadn't believed her. Everyone was shocked. Lin asked her to reveal the name of the attacker, and she responded that she would have never imagined that the deputy executive director would do something like that. Suchuk tried to reassure her, asking her to calm down and reminding her that she was still young and had her whole life ahead of her. When Si backed away, threatening to jump if they got close, Lin spoke harshly, telling her that if she was going to do it, she should do it quickly so the police would act faster. Then, he made her reflect. He told her that dying wouldn't solve anything and that she should live to seek justice. SP assured her that they would help, but C insisted that there was nothing they could do, since the man was the car. President G's father was horrified. This wasn't the kind of man he wanted his daughter to associate with, but when Lin admitted that he drove the Pagani, and it was deputy CEO of Hungai Capital, Lin promised her that he himself would make sure that the man went to prison, but clarified that he wouldn't force her if she didn't want to continue. At that moment, while C was distracted, Lin seized the opportunity to grab her and pull her to safety. The police thanked Lin for his quick actions, and he replied that he had only done what was necessary, requesting that they take the young woman's statement. Sia, still crying, expressed her hopelessness, doubting that they could win the case. Lin then turned to leave. Sue asked him where he was going, and Lin responded that he was heading to Hungai Capital to gather evidence. Sheng wondered if Lin was planning to take on the entire company alone. Sue tried to stop him, asking Shin Ban to stay with Xia. Then, she ran after Lin, got into the car, and begged him to calm down. She told him that she also wanted to help Sia, but that the vice principal had a lot of power. Lin asked her to get out of the car, but she fastened her seatbelt and refused, determined to accompany him. They drove to Hungai Capital. Lin approached the receptionist and told her that he wanted to see Q. The receptionist, he asked if he had an appointment, and when he said no, she told him that she couldn't see him without one. Lin then made a call to find out where Q was. The person on the other end informed him that he was in room 1809, and asked why Lin wanted to see him. He calmly replied that it was nothing serious, and that he simply wanted to teach him a lesson. Lin entered while the receptionist asked him to wait in Mr. Q's office. At that moment, Q was in a meeting with another man, discussing investments under his management. Seeing him enter, Q greeted him with sarcasm, commenting that he had a difficult day and was hoping for some entertainment. Lin kicked the door open, yelling that if he hadn't had enough, parked outside, his attitude changed completely. Fortunately, President G clarified that they weren't in a relationship or anything, but it was already too late. The middle-aged man had already brings fun, yet he was still looking for it. Q demanded to know who Lin was and how he dared to barge in. Lin confronted him directly, accusing him of abusing Sia. Q asked him if he was the Sai's teacher and whether he had come to confront him. He then tried to justify himself, claiming that Si had falsely accused him because he had rejected her advances and that he would not let that go unpunished. Suk stepped forward to reprimand Ku for his disgusting behavior, but he forcefully pushed her away, saying that she had no right to speak to him and that he had the backing of the legal department. Lin, enraged, knocked over a cup with one swipe. Q ordered Chan to call security. While Chan was doing this, Q tried to hit Lin, but Lin kicked him to the ground. Suk was left, impressed by his strength. Soon after, JN, the president of Hangai Capital, arrived, accompanied by guards, and asked Lin to stop. Lin, still furious, yelled at him that he would even for Seth, fight him if necessary. JN warned him, reminding him that Hangai Capital belonged to Chin, and that Lin had no chance of defeating them. He advised him to cease his senseless behavior. Lin defiantly replied that Chin wouldn't dare lay a hand on him, and questioned who they thought they were. Just then, someone announced Chin's arrival. Q, with a mocking smile, told Lin that he was in for it now, would be in trouble, hinting that Chin would take his side, since Chin's father was Ku's uncle. Lin retorted that he would still defeat him regardless. Chin intervened, and Ku accused him of causing a disturbance in the company and of attacking him. Chin looked at him coldly and asked what dishonorable act he had committed to provoke Lin. Taken aback, Cu fell silent. Chin asked Lin to calm down and explain what had happened. JN and Suk were also shocked by the situation unfolding. Lin recounted everything that Cu had done to her, as well as how he had driven her to the point of luck. His first assignment is to work as a driver. He will receive a gift of 10 million, 100% of the shares of the Peninsula Hotel, and a Pagani Zonda valued at 4.5 million, even something zero, invited Lin to his grandfather's 80th birthday party. He even gave them some privacy to continue what they were doing. Well, President G was not in the mood to, wanting to commit suicide. Chin asked Q directly if this was true. Lin added that Cu had even blamed her for what happened. Enraged, Chin also kicked Q. Q protested vehemently, asking him not to treat him that way, reminding him that they were cousins. Chin responded that he no longer considered him as such and assured Lin that he would take care of the situation. Lin agreed, expressing his wish that White would already be in prison the next time they met. Chin nodded and promised to deliver justice. Lin took Suga's hand, and they left, trusting that Chin would take care of the rest. Suga was surprised that Lin knew such a powerful person and that the matter had been resolved so quickly. She praised him for his courage when confronting them. Lin replied that, as a teacher, he had a duty to act. Otherwise, he wouldn't deserve to be called a teacher. He then criticized the educational system for not adequately preparing young people, which caused them to face difficulties when integrating into society after graduating. Suga decided to inform the director about these problems so that could be addressed. While they were in the car, Lin realized he had completed a task, earning a 60% increase in experience and a reward of $160 million. Suga called her and offered to drive, commenting that she must be tired after such a busy day. She suggested meeting Sia's boyfriend the next day, and Lin agreed. The scene then shifted to Lin's house, where he received a call from the general manager of Tango Property Management Company, who asked him for a convenient time to discuss the delivery of a property at 8 p.m. Lin scheduled the meeting for 1 p.m. the following day. Meanwhile, at Quan Villa, Chin was summoned by his father, Jun. Jun mentioned that he had finished the rest of the deep squats. There had already been a misunderstanding, but that didn't bother Lin Yi, who threw himself at the young woman, wanting to pick up where they had left off. Heard that Chin had fired Gu and demanded an explanation. They also talked about Lin, and Jun advised Chin to work more diligently. Chin refused, arguing that his capital was already had exceeded $1.5 billion. Then, Jun brought up the topic of Chin's girlfriend, suggesting that he should get married. Chin assumed his father was referring to Suga, but Jun showed him a photo of another woman with a stunning appearance. Jun informed him that it seemed he had already agreed to marry her, and that the girl had become the CEO of the Chaoyan group. Chin felt like he had seen her before, and showed Jun a picture of Lin with his girlfriend, asking if it was the same person. Jun was disappointed to learn that the girl already had a boyfriend. He commented that he had been having fun at a bar, and decided to return there the next day. The next day, Lin arrived at the government service center with several documents. Some girls commented on how attractive he was as he walked in. Receptionist Fan asked if he was there for business, and Lin explained that he wanted to register a company. She agreed to, helped him complete the forms and offered assistance should he have any questions. Meanwhile, a man watched them with an intense expression on his face. Lin completed the forms and took them to the PASO. Same man for review. He noticed an error. The registered capital was listed as 80 million instead of the correct amount. A woman, suspecting something was amiss, commented to Fan that something didn't quite add up, and suggested that Lin might be playing a prank on them. Lin wondered how they would react if he had correctly written the $160 million. He affirmed that the amount was correct, which led the man to demand proof of the funds. An annoyed Fan offered to help him fill out the forms again, but Lin questioned why he should have to do that. She felt embarrassed by the misunderstanding, but her cheeks were flushed with excitement. Lin Yi praised her form and taught her techniques, but they turned out to be too much for her, if the information was accurate. He then showed them the bank statement confirming the transfer of funds. They were shocked to discover that Lin truly was a millionaire. Despite his simple appearance, the man checked the form again and noticed another error in the address. It mentioned Twin Towers, but not the specific floors where the companies were registered. Lin presented documents proving his ownership of Twin Towers, clarifying that his company owned the entire building. Satisfied, the man confirmed that there were no further problems and asked him to wait a moment. Lin received his business license, feeling one step closer to reaching his goal. Lin was speaking on the phone with Suga, who informed him that he had invited CR Coffee's boyfriend to a location near the school for a chat. Lin, driving his car, assured him that he would arrive in 20 minutes. He finally arrived and met with Suga. Lin asked if the boy had arrived yet. Suga explained that the girlfriend would be graduating in a month, and since her family was well off, she didn't want to cause him any problems. Jang arrived, looking rushed, and asked Suga to choose a more elegant place to talk next time. She wanted to discuss the suicide attempt, but Jay said that it wasn't his problem, and that he didn't want a girlfriend like that. Lin intervened, saying that they wouldn't interfere in their relationship, but asked Jay to at least comfort her. Jay responded that their friendship was already over, and that he didn't want to date her. Suga became enraged and stood up, but Lin stopped her. She told Lin that there was no need to stop her, and he warned her to think about the consequences if someone recorded the scene and posted it on the internet. After that, the scene changed to Panalo Grand Hucho, where a car arrived. T asked Jang where he had been, and why they were meeting with someone so important. Girl, who pushed him away. He continued to praise her for utilizing her lower muscle groups. He wasn't being rude this time. Suddenly, he received a text message from his former. Yang replied that she had some pending school business. Tiambo brought him along because he wanted him to hand over his business and told him to behave appropriately. In front of the person they were going to meet, Yang got out of the car. Tiambo called Lin to ask if he had already arrived or was still on his way. Lin replied that he had already spotted them. When Lin arrived, Zhang recognized him and asked him not to follow him. Confused, Tiambo asked what they were talking about. Yang explained that Lin was his teacher and had reprimanded him that morning. Lin commented that Tiambo had a good son. Tiambo slapped Zhang, telling him that Lin was the new owner of Twin Towers and that he shouldn't be rude to him. Zhang was stunned to discover that Lin was the owner. Lin revealed that he worked as a teacher to gain experience. Another man approached and asked what was happening. Tiambo continued to scold his son. The man asked Lin if he wanted them expelled, but Lin replied that he would handle it himself. Lin revealed that he was the owner of Twin Towers and the Penula Grand Hotel, and asked if they had any more questions. Mistake, and promised to apologize to Chia and marry her. Lin warned him to never come near her again. Tiambo bowed to Lin in apology and asked him to give them a chance, reminding him that their company was a leader in real estate management. Yang recognized his mistake again, and Tiambo slapped him again. Lin ordered Tiambo to withdraw. There before discussing business. Tiambo accepted, and Lin proceeded to talk business with him. The scene then changed to Suga and Shang at school. Shinbong wondered why. Co-workers, who wanted to throw him a farewell dinner. With that, he said goodbye to the president. At the restaurant, everyone was already seated and waiting for him. Hanging expressed they had stopped trying to convince Yang. Suga explained that Yang's arrogance was the reason. Shinbong asked if Lin had gone there and failed to handle the situation. Suga responded that, unlike them, Lin remained calm. Shinpan asked if he was being praised or criticized, remarking that they seemed to get along so well. Suga was surprised to hear that. She then received a call, informing her that Yang had come to pick her up, and she asked that he be kept waiting. Shin wondered why Yang had gone there. When she finally saw him, Zhang apologized for everything, adding that he planned to visit Xiao, and asking Suga to accompany him. She agreed, thinking that Lin was truly impressive for handling the situation so well. The scene then shifted to Jing's house, where Lin met with her. He suggested that they go buy her a car. Jing asked him to have breakfast first, and then try something she had prepared. Lin commented that she had made a lot of food for breakfast. She responded that it was all healthy food, and then she fed him with her own hands. Lin commented that it was delicious and prepared. Lin commented that she had made a lot of food for breakfast. She responded that it was all healthy food, and then she fed him with her own hands. Lin commented that it was delicious. He asked what kind of car she wanted. She replied that she wanted a nice, white one. He suggested a Maserati, but she rejected the idea, saying it was too expensive, and that her superior already had one, so she decided to opt for an Audi instead. He promised to buy her the car, just as he had said he would, and suggested they go to the dealership together. At the dealership, Yu greeted them and asked if they were interested in buying a car. Lin explained what they were looking for, and Yu took note of the details. Jin mentioned that her budget was only 30,000. Yu was surprised and hesitated to assist them, so he called Lejin to show them the cars. She accepted, and Lin asked Yu if he thought her budget was too low, and that's why. Disappointment. As Lin was on the verge of receiving a promotion before leaving the sales team, a random, curly-haired kid chimed in, bragging that his own performance wasn't so bad he had not shown them any car. Yu agreed. Just then, a man approached and asked who the sports car parked outside belonged to. Yu checked and found that it was worth more than $5 million. He asked Lu what was going on. Lu explained that he wanted to enter with his vehicle, but the sports car was blocking the entrance, so he was asking for it to be moved. He apologized and told Jin that they should leave. He mentioned that he would move the car together with Yu. Yu asked if the sports car outside belonged to Lin. Lin asked him if there was a problem, and suggested that Jin go to another dealership, since they were not welcome there. Yu stopped them, and said that he would show them the car himself. Yu apologized to Lin, but Lin replied that he preferred to take his business elsewhere. Yu became enraged, and fired Lin on the spot. Jin apologized to Lin for the embarrassing situation. Afterwards, they arrived at another dealership, and Lin told her that she had no reason to apologize, since thanks to her, he had understood the beginning of his new job. They found a car, and Jin commented that people might think she was the mistress of a rich man. He told her not to pay attention to what others said, emphasizing that her own opinion was what mattered. Seeing that she liked it, he suggested she test drive the car. After the race, Lin bought the vehicle for her. He told her that since she had held a license for some time, she could practice driving with him whenever she had free time. She was delighted and thanked him for the car. Lin hugged her, and he told her it was his pleasure. Then, Lin arrived at Hangan restaurant to meet Han, who mentioned that he had been waiting for him. He suggested they sit down and eat while they talked. Lin asked him when the first phase of the project would be completed. Juan replied that it would take 2 months. Lin commented that this was too slow and promised to transfer $60 million to him. The comparison to Lin Yi. Wang Jin defended Lin Yi, even though the curly-haired boy tried to curry favor with the newly promoted senior. Lin Yi began to suspect that he had been invited. Next day, urging him to look for more companies to collaborate with. She agreed and thought that he was incredibly generous. Lin then asked her to design a logo for his company, the Lin Jun Group. She asked him where the company was located, and Lin replied that it was in Twent Towers. She commented on the success Lin had achieved at such a young age, and mentioned that there was a new owner of the towers. He then asked if she had any specific requirements for the design. Lin requested that she incorporate the Lenjin Tower into the design. She hesitated, suggesting it might be inappropriate to change the name, especially since he worked there. Lin revealed that he had actually purchased the Twent Towers. She was surprised to hear that and apologized for getting too excited about the matter. Afterward, she invited him to her house for coffee, but Lin declined the invitation due to other commitments he had. She promised to email him the details of the project and then departed. Suddenly, a waitress arrived accompanied by Suga, who was completely drunk. Suga expressed her desire to continue drinking. Lin saw them and called out to Suga, who said it was coincidentally, he found her there. The waitress explained that Suga's boyfriend had broken up with her, which was why she was drinking so much. She asked Lin to take her home. Lin picked Suga up and he asked her where she lived. She began to rant about her ex-boyfriend's shameless behavior and complimented Lin's appearance. He helped her into his car, but Suga insisted that she didn't want to go home, and she wanted to continue drinking. Lin decided to take her to the Penula Grand Hotel, which he owned. An employee asked him if Suga was his girlfriend. Lin denied it and requested the best suite and a bottle of wine. When it was served, Lin stopped her from drinking any more alcohol. She asked him if he thought she would misbehave with him. Lin assured her that it wouldn't be his fault if anything happened. Suga told him that she had for a farewell, but so that his former colleagues could show off. The senior stood up and asked if he was planning to return home, away from the big city, now that he was. Surprise for him. She led him to a room and asked him to sit down, assuring him that she had no intention of hurting him. She showed him several objects, and he asked her where she had gotten them. Taken aback, she explained that her ex-boyfriend had told her that she wasn't capable of doing certain things, and that's why she wanted to gain experience after he dumped her. Then, playfully, he tied Lin's hands, telling him to behave himself. He put a blindfold on him, and when he asked her what she was doing, she replied that he would soon understand. They both enjoyed their time together. Afterwards, Lin fell asleep, and Suga wondered what had led her to act that way towards him. She left silently, without saying a word. When Lin woke up, he discovered that she had fled, without leaving any note whatsoever. Then, the girl who had assigned him the mission appeared, informing him that his mastery had reached 70% and that he could now activate a new career. Confused, Lin agreed to activate it. She explained that his new job would be as a delivery driver, offering him numerous rewards, including $1.5 million and a Purini T12 limited edition tome, limited with expert-level driving skills. Lin wondered why he had changed his outfit. Then he realized that this new career path seemed promising and would offer more freedom than teaching at the school. She informed him that his motorcycle was parked in the hotel parking lot and suggested that he go and check it out. Lin got dressed and went to see his motorcycle, noting that it was worth $1 million and looked incredible. He also found a helmet that wasn't yet available for sale. Lin put it on and drove off. On the way, he ran into Suk, who was surprised to see the motorcycle and thanked him for taking care of it the night before. He advised her to drink less, and she agreed, commenting on how beautiful the view was, and unemployed. To add another insult to injury, the senior offered him a job as his personal security guard if he was short on money. Lin Yi was unfazed. Those bastards weren't worth it. Asking why he had never brought her there before, Lin explained that this was a place for studying, not for showing off. She then asked him why he had come on the motorcycle that day, and he responded that he had gone to collect his belongings and to resign from his position. She wanted to know if his decision to resign had anything to do with what had happened the day before, but he denied it, saying that he wanted to work as a delivery driver to have freedom and to relax. Suk was surprised and asked why he would do that kind of work when he was so rich, and if he would also deliver the orders that she would place. Lin joked, saying that he didn't offer special services. She insisted that he accompany her to finish some tasks later. Shortly after, Lin received an order. He had to deliver a music stand. He arrived at the Sang International apartments and met Wo to deliver the order, asking him for 20 pesos. Then Ja appeared, annoyed, asking why Lin had arrived so quickly and challenging him to another game. Lin suggested the boy learn that skill himself, but Ha asked him why he didn't learn it himself and criticized him, saying that if he knew how to play the piano, I wouldn't have to work as a delivery boy. Irritated, Lin asked Jawa if he was sure he didn't know how to play. Jawa commented that the piano was so expensive that Lin couldn't afford it. Wo got angry with Jawa and told Lin to ignore him. Lin insisted that he really knew how to play the piano. Ja boasted about his mother's talent, which led Lin to play her piano. Jala. He told his mother not to stop him and challenged Lin to play. Lin bet that if he played well, Ja would have to listen to his mother. The boy accepted the challenge. As he sat down, Lin remembered the wisdom that he had obtained from the wise men and thought that it had been a long time since he had played the piano. When he started playing, Bo commented that this was the 8th most difficult piece in the world, which even made. Suddenly, a member of the restaurant staff ran into the private booth to ask whose Pagani was parked downstairs. His former co-workers immediately suffer the prodigies. She admitted that she didn't expect Lin to play so well, and even though she was a college professor, she wouldn't dare to attempt it herself. Lin thanked her and reminded him to obey his mother. Zhue blamed him for being his mother's student and accused him of pretending to be a delivery man. Lin replied that he didn't even know W and asked the boy to continue practicing. W then, career. He thanked Lin and introduced himself, suggesting that he could get a very well-paid job playing the piano. Lin replied that, for the moment, he had no intention of changing his god. Career. She asked for his contact information to let him know about future opportunities, and he gave it to her. Afterward, he was congratulated and rewarded with access to the beach. Moonbee thought about how he could take advantage of the lands near his home, seeing a great opportunity. Shortly after, he received a call from someone from the Munda Authority, inquiring when they would complete the necessary procedures. Lin accepted and went to the office where he met Kai, who had contacted him previously. She showed him all the documents for the area and asked him to check if there were any issues. Lin asked why a public property was being privatized. Kai explained that delegating the administration to a private entity was more profitable, and because of the previous person in charge's unusual social context, the area had been auctioned off. Although Lin would own the tourist site, it still belonged to the state, and he only had a 70-year lease contract that was renewable. Lin decided to meet with the manager. Lin called Sun to inquire about Mun Beach. Sun revealed that the person in charge owed 330,000 pesos. He decided to pick up Sun, and they went to the location together. Upon arriving, they encountered some rough-looking men. One of them asked Sun why he was there, and Sun explained that they wanted to see manager Yao. If he had to work as a driver his entire life to get those gifts, he would gladly do it. However, each task only lasts 1 week, which means that each new job will bring rush to the windows to admire the luxurious car. The curly-haired boy tried to launch another offensive remark, but all Lin Yi had to do was take out his keys. The senior was the first to react, and the man responded that he didn't know where he was, but Sun contradicted him by pointing out Yao's car parked nearby. Sun introduced Lin as the beach's owner and clarified that they hadn't just come for the Yao's cargo debt. The men were surprised and informed Lin that Yao was in his office. Lin took Sun's file and ordered them to tell Yao to return the money, clarifying that he didn't want to cause any trouble. Cause problems. Then he left the place. Later, one of the men informed Yao that the beach owner had come and warned him not to interfere in their business. He also demanded that he pay the debt to Wanhan Pier. Yao responded that this debt was not the beach owner's business. However, the man revealed that the owner also controlled Hang Pier. Chan commented to Yao that it seemed like the new owner didn't respect him. Furious, Yao devised a plan to discredit Lin. Xiang praised the idea, but declined to participate. Lin arrived at the Great Peninsula Hotel, where a man asked him what he needed. Lin explained that he had come to check on an account. The man asked him which account and offered to speak with someone about it. Lin wanted to know if there was any money still owed to the hotel. The man confirmed the amount was over 470,000 pesos and answered their questions. Then, Lin inquired whether Chin owed them money. The man informed him that Chin had brought some girls over the previous night and hadn't paid. Lin called Chin from a different number, identified himself, and demanded a payment of 18,000 pesos. Chin told Lin not to meddle in other people's business. Lin asserted that it was his property and offered Chin free lodging if he cooperated. Chin agreed and mentioned he was at Huang's office. Soon after, Man reported that Yao had arrived to meet with Lin. Lin asked for them to be allowed to come up. Yao arrived accompanied by Chan and other men. The guard gave the order for security to assemble on the first floor. Yao, he changed his attitude towards Lin Yi after learning that he drove a multi-million-dollar car. He had always been known as an orphan, and he finally realized just how. Offered Lin a gift in exchange for his cooperation, but Lin replied that he wasn't interested in his cooperation. Yao threatened him, saying that if he didn't accept, he would destroy the entire area. Lin, having nothing to lose, he challenged him to see who could endure the most suffering. Lin grabbed a cup, feigning an attack, and the other men lunged at him, but he managed to defend himself. He had already offered Lin a gift simply by accepting to cooperate, but Lin responded that he didn't want their cooperation. Then, Lin revealed that he was the owner of the beach, Wanhan Pier, and controlled all the security in the area. Yao was shocked to discover that Lin was also the owner of the Grand Peninsula Hotel. Looking out the window, Yao saw a crowd gathered outside. Lin suggested that, with a small investment, he could improve his situation. Meanwhile, Chin met with Chan, and Yao hurriedly went to ask him for help against Lin. Chin ignored him and instead asked Lin what was happening and whether they were truly qualified to cooperate with him. Chan and Yao were stunned by Chin's reaction. Lin issued a warning to those who threatened to destroy his business. Chin, enraged upon hearing this, he shouted at them to leave immediately. Yao wondered what Lin's relationship with Chin was. Chin kicked him out and demanded to know when Yao would return the money. He promised he would and hurried off with the others. Chin asked Lin if he wanted to teach anyone else a lesson. Lin responded that this was not the time to waste time on such things. He said that since he had helped him, he would not charge him the 18,000 pesos, emphasizing that shamelessness was a necessary quality in business. Meanwhile, Lin received a call from Heching, who had heard that he had quit his job and asked him if he had done so because he was flirting with a student. Lin denied this, explaining that he had left to gain experience and dedicate himself to the superficial the people around him were. Lin Yi was practically fed up with that boring party, so he turned to Hang Ying and offered to take her home. He was delivery job. Heching said there was an order, but upon hearing that, Lin hung up and left to make deliveries, leaving Chin alone. Lin arrived at Heching's place to deliver the products, and she commented on how quickly it had arrived. They went inside, and Lin asked if she wanted to take the vegetables home after he delivered them to the company. She declined, mentioning that, in her room, she had a small kitchen and sometimes asked the dining hall staff to prepare something special from their recipe book. Lin offered to cook something for her himself and put all of his exciting effort into it. After 20 minutes, he served the food on the table. Jeking was delighted and praised the dish, saying that it was much better than the company's food and that it smelled delicious. Lin asked her to enjoy it and went to get a glass of juice. As he was doing so, he heard Jeching's voice calling out to him, so he hurried back to see what was the matter. He found her eating and praising how flavorful the food was. She complimented him repeatedly, asking how he could be such a good cook. Lin replied that he had a bit of natural talent. She asked what reward he wanted for that, and he kissed her, saying that was the reward he desired. They shared a romantic moment, but she then asked him why they were in the office. Lin commented that it was more exciting there. Later, she was sitting on his lap, and he asked her why she had called him that morning. She replied that she wanted him to accompany her to Huangheng Pier. Lin agreed, adding that they would also review the progress of the work there. Afterwards, they went to the riverbank, and she mentioned that she had spoken with Juan about his company's project. The budget was 55 million, and if he didn't make a profit, Lin could save 23 million. He told her that she didn't need to economize so much. She explained that since the project was so persistent and kept trying to get closer to Lin Yi by grabbing his hand, but Lin Yi pulled away, feeling anger starting to build up inside. Then he left there with the beautiful hostess. She didn't want to make a profit and preferred that Lin save the money for emergencies. He replied that he wouldn't use it, and she nodded, saying that if they included Mumbai Beach, it would be perfect. Lin replied that he would buy it as well. They both went downstairs, and she asked him if it was really that easy to do, but he responded that since the property belonged to the government, he didn't plan to get involved. They both put on their helmets and headed to the construction site. She commented that sunbathing on the beach was better than having a private pool and thought he might offer her some kind of opportunity, but she had overestimated his intentions. A man approached Lin and told him that Yao had returned the money, and that Monbay Beach was now under his control. Jeking was surprised and asked him what was happening. He explained that the beach now belonged to them and asked her if she wanted to sunbathe there. She scolded him, calling him wicked for always teasing her. Then Jeking mentioned that since he owned Hanghang Pier, she asked him to take her to the beach when he had time. Lin agreed and suggested that they go diving as well. She was surprised he knew about it and suggested meeting with 2 people to establish the foundation and find him an office building. Lin entrusted her with these procedures, giving Lin Yun Tower as the address. She asked if he had bought that as well, and he confirmed it. Then, he mentioned he had to leave for work to make deliveries. He asked her to return carefully, and she commented that making deliveries would be exhausting for him, wishing him luck and telling him to be careful. Before leaving, he received an order. He needed to buy 2 swimming floats from any brand for about 30 pesos each. Lin went to a store and asked for good quality floats within that price range. The seller showed him some for 32 pesos, so Lin bought 2 and asked for cleans. Driving down the road in a luxury vehicle, Hang Jing was impressed with the experience, to say the least. The 2 of them had worked together for so long, and she hadn't. The receipt. The man commented that Lin was very attractive and offered to introduce him to some wealthy girls. Lin joked that he seemed like a matchmaker, to which the salesman, he responded that he was only joking. Lin arrived at the beach and called the client. The man instructed him to deliver the items under the red umbrella where he was sitting, and Lin remarked that there were many large red umbrellas. The man became angry, and just then, a girl named Vin called out. Upon seeing him, she commented on how handsome he was and asked another girl, Lulu, to look at how incredible the delivery man looked. Lulu observed him and asked if he really was the delivery guy. Phi commented that Lin seemed clueless. Vin wondered if Lin would want to work as a waiter at her store. Lin approached to deliver the floats and asked for 64 pesos, since each one cost 32 pesos. Vin offered him a job as a waiter at her clothing store, but Lin turned it down and asked who would pay the bill. Phi became enraged and said that he had ordered floats that cost 30 pesos each, but Lin had brought ones that cost 32 pesos, insinuating that he was doing it for profit. Phi suggested that Lin could, having bought cheaper floats and presented a fake receipt. Lin questioned if they really thought he was in need of money. Phi asked him if he was a rich man. Vin told Phi to stop and said that she didn't believe Lin was capable of doing something like that, offering to pay herself. F insisted that since he was the one who had invited them to enjoy themselves, he wouldn't let her pay. Phi handed over the money to Lin. He noticed that it was only 60 pesos, even though the total was 64. F explained that he had ordered 2 floats at 30 pesos each, so he wouldn't pay the difference. Lulu agreed with Phi and advised Lin to learn from his mistake. Lin returned the money to Vin, saying that his friends weren't rich and to consider it a gift. Then he started to back away, but Phi bragged that he earned 310,000 pesos a year. Lin responded that he wasn't going to argue over the price of 2 floats. Then F made another request to Lin. Lin asked him not to bother, telling him, seen him as a millionaire. He stuck to his inheritance story while they were on the road, and also asked Wang Jin to make the ride request on the Blah Blah app. Fei bragged that he earned 310,000 pesos a year. Lin responded that he wasn't going to argue over the price of 2 floats. Then F made another request to Lin. Lin asked him not to bother, telling him that he couldn't beat Phi, but Lulu insisted that he shouldn't interfere. Lin received a new assignment from Phi to purchase a Ferrari 812. Phi told him to buy it and that he would cover all the expenses. Lulu teased Lin, saying that he had only bought a model Ferrari. Lin left to fulfill the order he was given. Afterwards, Phi started drinking wine and offered some to Vin, but she refused. Lulu encouraged Vin to have fun, but Vin responded that they shouldn't disrespect a delivery person. Phi was surprised to hear that and asked her if she really thought of him that way. Lin returned with a suitcase, angering Phi, who demanded that Lin apologize before leaving. Vin got angry at Phi for going too far, but Lulu told Vin not to act like that and that it wasn't worth arguing over a delivery man. Vin retorted that she would not allow Phi to treat anyone that way. Phi told Lin that he had the money ready, but since there was had brought the car and would buy it himself. Lin opened the suitcase, showed him the purchase documents totaling 1.1 million pesos, and asked how he planned to pay. Phi was surprised and asked how he had managed to get that. Lin signaled, and a truck opened, revealing the car Phi had ordered. Sarcastically, Lin commented that if Phi was so rich, then he could pay for it. Phi apologized for his behavior, but Lin demanded that he kneel and beg for forgiveness. Phi became enraged and threatened to call Yao, who had influence in the area. Lin found it amusing, and Phi called Yao, offering him 155,000 pesos in exchange for help. Then, he gestured for Lin to wait there. Bin advised Lin to leave discreetly. Finally, she gladly agreed and was happy to support Lin Yi's business venture. The system scanned Wang Jing and assigned her a beauty score of 84. With just one more point, she would have obtained a day. Yao arrived with several men. Phi ran to him and pointed out Lin as the one causing the problem. Lin turned to them and asked if they really wanted to cause trouble. Everyone looked at him and they bowed before him. Lin reminded them that he had already asked them to leave, yet they had returned the next day anyway. Yao apologized, admitting his mistake. Phi was confused by the situation. Then he turned to Phi, pointing out that Lin was the owner of Wang Hank Beach and Pier, and asking how he dared to mess with him. Bin and Lulu were shocked to hear this. Yao. He asked Lin how he wanted to handle the matter. Lin demanded that Phi kneel and beg for forgiveness. They threatened him until he did so, terrified. Lin told Yao that he would give them one last chance, and that if they needed money, they should contact Sun to get them a job. Yao and Chan thanked Lin for his help. Bin said that he didn't want to stay there any longer, but he didn't have a car to leave, so asked Lin to give her a ride. Lin asked her to change out of her swimsuit because it wasn't appropriate, but she responded that it didn't matter and that she felt comfortable like this. Lulu also asked for a ride, but Lin asked him if he wanted to go home or just hop in the truck. Lin took Vin on his motorcycle, and they drove off. Shortly after, the woman who had assigned them the task arrived, and he mentioned that his experience had earned him a 40% cut and a reward of 150 million pesos. Lin thanked him, and right at that moment, he received a bank notification informing him that he had been credited money to his account. B noticed that Lin had accidentally received 2.3 million pesos and was surprised, commenting that he would soon reach 10 million pesos. She apologized for having misinterpreted his message and mentioned that her store's account was a fraction of Lin's 230 million pesos. He corrected her, telling her that it wasn't 2.3 million pesos, but 230. Extra reward. Hang Jin was already an incredibly beautiful woman, but the system seemed to be quite demanding. So Lin Yi asked what a woman could do to increase her charm rating. Millions of pesos. She was stunned to hear that, and wondered how someone could be so rich. She took him to a clothing store, and wearing a casual dress, asked him what he thought of the outfit. Place. Lin asked if the spot was hers, and she confirmed, saying she had graduated from Tongba University. He offered her a drink, but she refused, so he took her company card. She suggested exchanging numbers to stay in touch, and he agreed, mentioning he might order a dress from her as a uniform. She accepted and promised to provide him with the best service. Lin went outside and called Sun. Sun answered and told him that he would be in Hangai in a few days since they hadn't seen each other in half a month. Lin asked him to stop talking in that tone. Sun asked him if he knew about the company's site, commenting that they had finalized the control unit program and were ready to collaborate with them. Lin asked him to call in advance, promising to receive him well, and then hung up. Lin wondered how Psyche had managed to get ahead of him when he had only written the codes a few days ago. He arrived at the Longin Institute, and he met up with Jink and asked what she had been working on. She replied that they had completed the program for the control unit and were performing the third test, but they were still having place. They were having problems with the frequency hopping band. While they were chatting, Lin ran into Fuyu, who was sitting. Lin informed them that the SA company had finalized their control program. Control. Both Yin and Fuyu were surprised to hear this. Lin suspected that Psyche might have hired Chu, whom he had fired. Jin reassured him, saying that Chu's technology of Chu was weak and that their program was superior. Lin raised his voice, criticizing her for being naive, for not considering the market timing, or for not having applied for a patent. He suggested. She responded by pulling something out of her bag, a pair of black fishnet stockings. She slowly slid them up her legs to her thighs. Hang Jin posed in the passenger seat and looked irresistible as she fined one, that they do so before others announced their programs. He asked if she still believed they had the initiative, pointing out that others might have already filed patents, and they would be left. They were behind schedule. Jin was shocked by that possibility. Fuyu lowered his head, admitting his mistake and asking to be fired. Lin asked her not to give up, and although Fuyu took the YAPC responsibility for the weakness that caused the failure, Lin urged him to forget about it and focus on moving forward with the work. They both sat down to program, and Lin commented that the company PSY had stolen their technological results. However, he stressed that their version was original and needed improvements, but that they could surpass Psy instead of giving up. They were both optimistic and Lin started programming. 12 hours later, he commented that programming was exhausting. He finished the code, but the lithography technology couldn't run the program, so they needed 2 more Dutch lithography machines. Fuyu said she would contact someone to take care of that. Lin asked Jin to organize a team to quickly develop a new mobile phone operating system with the goal of surpassing iOS. She agreed, and Lin mentioned that they could bring an end to the era of foreign chip monopolies and to usher in a new future. Fuyu commented that the future rested in talented hands. Lin headed to his car and received an order to purchase an original car brand charger. An hour later, he arrived to deliver the order, informing A that it was his order, totaling $96. A questioned why it was so expensive when the store offered it at a 50% discount. That day, Lin checked and reported that the promotion had ended the previous day. A blamed him, accusing him of trying to profit off the price difference. Lin responded that he had began to emphasize her curves. Lin Yi hurriedly scanned her beauty score again. Finally, the system awarded her that extra point, increasing Lin Yi's completion percentage. Invoice to prove that he hadn't scammed him. A woman came out of the house and asked A not to embarrass the delivery driver. A handed him the charger and asked him to take care of it, since he wouldn't be there that night because of his night shift. As Lin was getting ready to leave, A asked him to take out 2 bags of trash as well. Lin replied that it wasn't his job. A threatened him with filing a complaint with the company if the bags weren't taken care of. Even so, Lin refused and told A to do whatever he wanted. He ignored the man and went downstairs, where he encountered another delivery man struggling to carry a very heavy table by himself. Lin offered to help him out. The man thanked him and joked, wondering if Lin was a delivery driver or a garbage collector. He asked him why he took on those kinds of jobs, and the man explained that if he didn't, customers might not give him a 5-star rating, which would negatively impact his job. Lin admired his dedication and admitted that he had started out the same way. Just then, A showed up and threatened to report him again. Lin called him an idiot and told him to do whatever he wanted. He became angry at the insult and bragged about his wealth, even suggesting that he could get Lin fired with a single phone call. Lin mocked his cheap tactics and showed him his sports car. Surprised that Lin was doing that kind of work, A asked him why he did it. Lin explained that it was to understand life, and then asked A where he worked. A, defensively, A responded by asking what was wrong with it. Lin warned him that mistreating people would eventually backfire on him. He then left, leaving A regretting his actions and promising not to repeat them. Lin received a new order, feeling that this one could also go wrong. He arrived at the apartments in Guhangai, knocked on the door and found, there, she asked him, more bonuses. First, he needs to stop by the Peninsula Hotel to take charge of his new business, and the key to his Pagani is ready for him. As for the money, the 1.5 million is already in his, from 15%. He also obtained some houses in Hino as a reward. He hurried to take Wang Jing back to her house. After arriving at the parking lot, she began to hint, asked why he was running errands. Lin asked to withdraw from the delivery, but first handed her a package and asked for the money. She scoffed, suggesting that he could lose all his money with that kind of work, and end up doing odd jobs. Lin firmly replied that it was none of his business and asked for his payment. Chin asked him if he was in such dire financial straits that he needed money and how he could possibly do business being so poor. Then, he threw the medicine on the floor, saying he didn't want it anymore and demanding a refund. Lin was surprised by his reaction, picked up the money, and started to leave. Chin asked him to wait and told him that she wanted to take a photo of him. Lin asked why, and she explained that she wanted to record the downfall of the former top student in their class and send it to her parents. Classmates. At that moment, Fan arrived and asked what was going on. Seeing Lin, he wanted to know why he was there. Chin explained that he was her old classmate, who was now ruined and working as a delivery driver. Fan gently pushed her and warned her not to speak badly about Lin again. Chin insisted that Lin was beneath him. Fan revealed that Lin was simply experiencing the life and didn't deserve to be ridiculed. Chin was confused by Fan's defense of Lin. Fan apologized to Lin on Chin's behalf, and Lin handed the medicine to Fan, asking Chin to stay away from him, also requesting a 5-star rating. Away from him, and also asked for a 5-star rating. Fan agreed. When Lin came downstairs, he saw that he had received the highest rating for the delivery. Fan, still annoyed, made Chin pick up all the medicine he had thrown away. Lin thought that if he kept working at this rate, he might finish his shift the next day. Shortly after, Jing called him and asked if he was free to come to her house and cook. He accepted and offered to pick her up, but she refused, suggesting they meet at the supermarket in the square because she needed to buy. That her husband was away on a business trip, so they were welcome to go up to her house for a while. Unfortunately, Lin Yi was too busy managing his rewards, but they were free to do whatever they wanted. Ingredients. Lin agreed to wait for her there. When she arrived, she told him that he was a VIP customer at the new supermarket, so they could get an extra discount. They went inside, and she began to fill the cart with various products. He asked if they had only come for the ingredients. She acknowledged him, but explained that desserts put women in a good mood. Lin joked, telling him that, in that case, they wouldn't put him in a good mood either. She playfully told him not to be like that. After purchasing the ingredients, the cart was completely full. Lin said that it was already enough, as there was no more space. Jin insisted on buying beer and asked him to cook the same delicious dish as he had last time. Then, Pan called her, saying that he was a talent scout and that he could turn her into an entertainment star. Lin intervened, saying that Jin wasn't interested and suggested Pan offer the position to the woman selling fish. Pan saw a robust girl selling fish and joked that she looked interested. Then he boasted about his achievements, stating that Jin could earn 100 million a year. Jin felt tempted. For the offer, Pan told Lin not to stop his girlfriend if she wanted to accept it. Lin agreed, but told him that he would have to wait 15 years. Pan didn't understand what Lin meant, so he showed him his account with 1.5 billion, and told him that Pan could keep the girlfriend for those 15 years, letting him decide if he wanted to wait that long. Pan was stunned to see so much money. Lin suggested to meet again in 15 years if Pan was still working there. Pan apologized and asked Lin not to take his offer seriously before leaving. Hin asked Lin to deposit 100 million first. He accepted, but on the condition that they review her project that night when they returned home. Upon arrival, as he approached her, she asked him to wait. While waiting, he suggested they play that they would like on their husband's next business trip. In the end, the former co-workers said their goodbyes. Lin had a good rest and then headed to the sales department of a game of 300 rounds. The scene changed to the Yunu villa, where they both arrived. Lin asked her if her parents were really not there. She confirmed that they weren't. He sat down and commented that they had interrupted many times there. Then he suggested they begin practicing, taking her hand as she watched him demonstrate. Lin then turned her, so she was reclining on his lap. She asked him to give her grapes, but Lin placed them on her body and began eating them with his mouth. She commented that it was becoming a mess, but he replied that it had a creamy texture. After that, she handed him a file and offered to support him with $3,000. He acknowledged that it would be sufficient. Then she asked him to arrange a meeting with the foundation manager in her office the next day at 12 p.m. Lin tossed the file aside and told her to do whatever she wanted. Afterward, he suggested that they resume their 300-round game the following day. The next morning, he took her to his office, and she reminded him not to forget the meeting. Lin agreed, and as she was leaving, he received a new assignment. But coincidentally, it was for the same location. He felt uncomfortable, and upon arriving, he saw a man with 5 delivery drivers. Lin thought that perhaps the man needed help moving a car. The man was broadcasting live, saying that his car had gotten stuck in a ditch. Stuck in a ditch, he showed off his wealth while calling 6 more delivery drivers for assistance. Lin commented that this behavior was shameful. The man pointed out that Lin was the last to arrive and promised everyone a 5-star rating for helping out. Lin argued that 6 wouldn't be enough and suggested he call more, but the man insisted that they were all just errand boys and used that as an excuse for the situation. Lin turned around and told them to just do what they could. The man announced to his viewers that this guy would continue. First thing in the morning, he walked into the building looking like $1,000,000. The first person she saw was Sand Menju, another co-worker. Lin Yi told her that he had only being a delivery driver for another 10 years. Lin got into his car and revved the engine loudly. Hearing the sound, the man thought it was a supercar approaching and bragged about it to his audience, saying that he would soon have one just like it. However, he was shocked when he saw that Lin was the one driving it. Lin pondered the mindset of those wealthy men and hesitated that this guy would maintain his fortune for very long. The viewers watched the scene unfold, and as Lin drove away, some began to unsubscribe from the man's channel. Lin arrived at Jin's office and noticed that it was already time for the meeting, but the other party had not yet arrived. She gestured for him to look behind him, and when he turned around, he saw a table with ingredients laid out, as if it were a small kitchen. Lin commented that he had already cooked for her the night before, but she insisted that she wanted him to do it again. She took his hand and reminded him that he had promised to cook something delicious for her once he learned how. He asked her if she was serious about that. Lin prepared the food and served it. Jin praised it just by looking at it. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. Jin invited them inside. It was Joan and Qian. Jin mentioned that the meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. and inquired why they had arrived ahead of time. Joan replied that they didn't want to be late. Then, he remarked that Jin had a talented cook, even though Lin didn't look the part, and asked if he was his new secretary. Jin was about to introduce him, but Lin gestured to him to stop him from doing so. Instead, Jin introduced Qian, praising his outstanding business acumen. Jin welcomed them and suggested they have lunch together. After they finished eating, Joan complimented the food, and Qian discussed topics pertaining to the chip industry. Joan noticed that it was almost 3 o'clock and commented that the new boss hadn't arrived yet, highlighting his lack of come to collect the property ownership certificate from the manager. Menju reacted terribly, kicking him out for being a child who thought too highly of himself. The houses that this company sold cost punctuality. Jin revealed that the new boss was already present and introduced them to Lin. Both of them were astonished, and Joan apologized for assuming that he was merely a cook. Lin assured him that nothing was wrong, and he said that he now understood their personalities. Then, he asked if they had any questions. Joan inquired about his future business plans. Lin responded that the foundation did not represent his future, as his vision was to expand on a global scale. When no one responded, Lin remarked that it seemed they thought he was joking. Hind added that every ambitious person deserved respect. Then, they discussed the details. Lin raised his glass and proposed paying each of them $5 million a year, plus additional dividends when the company went public. Joan accepted the offer and also toasted to it. Chen thanked Lin, mentioning that the salary was generous. Lin responded that he valued talent more than money, especially considering the company's founding members had global potential, and that was why he wanted to be generous. Everyone toasted to that. Lin asked them to accompany him to see the new office and said that he was eagerly anticipating their future. Jin joked, wondering if they weren't worried he'd give them a small, dark room to start the business in. Joan said the only thing she asked for was air conditioning, because if she used a fan, the documents would get messed up. They arrived at Lingen Towers, and Joan asked if Lin had rented an office there, surrounded by all those luxurious buildings. Lin revealed that he had bought the Twin Towers. Everyone was in shock. Joan offered to be his secretary, promising to be modern too. Hin asked them not to say anything about her. Lin left them the job and informed them that there was $500 million in the account, so they could make decisions while he went off to work. Joan, in a mocking tone, asked if Lin at least $130 million. Fortunately, manager Hongui arrived in time and pulled Menju aside. Hongui was clever. He quickly pulled Lin Yi's arm close to his generous chest and presented the work to cook for pretty female CEOs. Lin denied it, saying he had been a delivery driver before. Everyone was surprised. Jin chimed in, saying that it was already enough and that Lin was different from other wealthy men. On their way out, Joan and Qian started discussing how to organize everything to ensure it ran smoothly. Lin then asked Jin whether she planned to join the Chang group. She responded that it depended on whether he had the ability to acquire it. Approaching her, he inquired if she had any ideas for future development, or something in mind. Lin responded that he believed in Bactera. She questioned if that was truly what he wanted, and he replied that what they desired wasn't so easily obtained. She suggested that he should start directly as an investor and establish an investment company. Lin commented that she had been very astute lately. She asked him to take advantage of Juan, but he reassured her, saying that he had already planned everything out. Then, Lin asked Jin if she would be willing to change jobs and become his secretary. She gently pushed him away, refusing, and he asked him to leave his company because he was swamped with work. Lin agreed and departed. The scene then shifted to Hangai Airport, where Lin was examining a car that Tian had brought. It verified that it had received 10 5-star ratings. Then, a girl appeared and told him that he would be rewarded with a lucky card that would bring him good fortune. Lin had been waiting there for Sun, and they finally reunited after a long time. Sun hugged him with great emotion. Xiao asked them not to act foolishly at the airport, because it was embarrassing. Sun was eager to kiss him, but Lin asked him to calm down, lest Giao think he was acting strangely. Sun introduced himself to Lin, who suggested that they go to property options. However, his former classmate continued to mock him for being a poor orphan. The manager shoved him and immediately fired Menjo for harassing a valued customer. Eat something. Xiao said that they didn't eat at street stalls due to hygiene concerns. Sun revealed that during college, they always ate at stalls. During their university days, he mentioned that a dragon mansion had opened in Hangai and suggested that they should go. Sun questioned why they would go to such an expensive place if there were no other guests, and she further added that Lin hadn't brought any gifts for their first meeting, so he should invite them there as compensation. He also commented that he had heard Lin worked at a real estate company and earned a lot of money. Lin replied that he had quit that job and was currently working as a delivery driver, so he could only afford to invite them to eat at the cafeteria. They were surprised to hear this, and Sun asked Lin to come with him so he could help him find a better job, but Lin declined the offer. After that, they arrived at the parking lot where he met his brother, who revealed that he was taking photos with the Bentley parked there and didn't expect to see them. Lin and Sun were shocked by the extent of Hia's family's wealth. The boy then asked Xiao, and her mother invited her to a meal. Sun mentioned that Xia still hadn't found a job and that it was hard to get by on just her salary. The boy bragged about buying a high-end Magotan after working for 2 years. Then Lin asked if a car was really that important and offered to give his to Sun. Everyone was shocked to find out that the Bentley belonged to Lin. Sun asked if it was really his, and Xiao was skeptical as well. How could a delivery driver own a car like that? No one understood. Jia suggested they all grab a bite together, but Lin replied that he was going to a street food stall that she didn't want to go to. Jia's brother offered to treat them to a meal to celebrate their friendship, and Sun also asked Lin to join them. Lin invited them to get into his. She attempted one last plea, but the manager announced that Mr. Lin had purchased 9 of their most exclusive properties, causing her to collapse to the floor, utterly shocked by the revelation. Everyone piled in, and Jia's brother gestured for Sun to sit in the back, which made Lin feel awkward. Jia started snapping pictures of the interior because the car was so luxurious. The brother, he commented that it was a luxury vehicle that not everyone could afford, and asked to exchange contact information with Ninja, whom he now considered a friend. He even asked to borrow the car for a friend's wedding. Lin replied that he didn't consider him a friend yet. Xiao told her brother to just order the car, since Lin was planning on giving it to Sun. Sun refused to accept such an expensive gift, which made Xiao angry. They arrived at Hangai Food Street, where Lin took them to a restaurant he used to frequent back in college. Sun asked Xiao to order something, but she refused to. Lin ordered a delicious barbecue for everyone, and the waiter took their order. Sun thanked him and said that he wanted to talk with Lin. Lin suggested that Sun spend the night at his place so they could chat comfortably. Sun replied that the company would provide accommodation for him, so he didn't need to worry. Xiao chimed in, saying that Lin's suggestion was a good one, and that Sun should stay, while he would return home to look for some bills the company needed to pay, hoping to earn some money. Sun rejected the idea, saying Lin had a girlfriend and she didn't want to make him uncomfortable. Lin clarified that he had ended his relationship and was living alone, promising to send food and wine for a second round of conversation. At that moment, a man arrived on a motorcycle and asked if they needed a ride. Lin asked him about Jujo Homes, and Xiao and her brother realized it was a luxury community. After eating, they walked for a bit, and Xiao's brother suggested that she find a way to get in there. She responded ambiguously, hinting at a plan, except for Lin. They all got into the car, and he asked where he would sit. Xiao's brother got out to make room for him. Lin He was pleased that the system spared no expense when it came to the rewards. Hangui swiftly transformed back into a charming manager, apologizing for the intrusion of a deranged employee. Informed Xiao that he would leave with Sun, while she would return alone. She expressed concern that Sun was quite drunk, and asked if he wanted her to come with him. Lin agreed to take her. Half an hour later, they arrived at Lin's mansion, leaving Sun and Xiao in awe of its grandeur. Sun remarked that it looked like a very expensive house, to which Lin replied matter-of-factly that it was worth around $1 billion. They were stunned into silence. A man greeted them and informed Lin that the ingredients for the barbecue had arrived. Lin asked for them to be taken inside and invited Sun and Xiao to join him for a second round. Sun accepted, and Lin went to get the wine. Xiao asked if Lin was some kind of low-key billionaire. Sun replied that he didn't know, since Lin had always been a normal person back in college. Xiao encouraged him to get closer to Lin and to accept the car he was offered. Sun became upset, saying that he wouldn't accept such an expensive gift because he was Lin's friend, not his father. Sun told him to come inside, ending the conversation. Xiao then decided to take matters into her own hands regarding Lin. They both sat down to eat, and Sun excused himself to go to the bathroom, but in reality, he went to look for. Lin told him she wanted to talk and asked if he was single. Noticing her strange behavior, Lin showed her a photo of his girlfriend, the CEO of the Chan Group, a woman with a fortune exceeding $1 billion. Lin then asked if she knew any better girls he could be introduced to. Already in shock, she confessed that she had been in love with him since the first time they met, and that she wanted to be with him. Lin was surprised by what she was saying. Suddenly, she began to undress, leaving him completely stunned. Without further explanation, Lin told Xiao that her behavior was unacceptable and that she didn't deserve Sun, and asked her to leave. Enraged, she threatened to make him regret it. Lin asked her why he should regret it, and then, as for the paperwork, everything was already prepared. Lin Yi retrieved the documents and tossed the envelopes into the car. Hang Jing then sent him a text message with the news that, she screamed, calling for help. When Sun arrived, she claimed that she had gone to the bathroom, but Lin had tried to hurt her. Sun refused to believe it, knowing that Lin would never do such a thing. Xiao then. He questioned why he wasn't on his side, accused Lin, and demanded $1 billion. Sun intervened, telling him that enough was enough. Lin asked him why he was demanding so much money for her body, and she threatened to ruin his reputation by posting about it on social media. He denied touching her and pointed to his home security system. Xiao begged Sun to support her, but he walked away, leaving her hurt and questioning if he no longer loved her. Furious, Sun scolded her for her shamelessness. Lin ordered her to leave, and she hurriedly left. Lin apologized to Sun, but Sun told him that he shouldn't apologize, and instead thanked him for revealing Xiao's true character. Lin suggested changing the subject. They sat down to eat, and Sun encouraged him to ask questions. Lin asked him how many people were working on Psych. Sun responded that the company had made a breakthrough in a terminal program for chips, and that they needed it. Win that project. Lin inquired about who Sun was communicating with regarding the matter, and Sun explained, asking if Lin was interested in the chip industry. Lin responded that he was only somewhat curious, and then offered him the keys to his car to drive. Sun declined the offer of the expensive car, but Lin insisted that he wanted to gift it to him. Sun responded that, even if Lin wanted to help him, he would continue to strive on his own, and that it wasn't too late for Lin to withdraw his support if he could no longer endure it. Lin said that Sun was a good friend and suggested that they make a toast together. The following morning, Lin discovered that Sun had already left for work after preparing breakfast for him. Afterward, Lin received an order.